tonight to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Alfred.
Chloe, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Alfred.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative, and it's so good to see all of you guys today. Thank you so much for being here. I saw little Miss Sharon, good to see you. Yeah, little Miss Sharon was hissing at Mr. Fish Sticks over there, so she's hissy with Fishy. And I saw Lori number 4, thank you Lori, and Poppy Love, so nice to see you. I saw Kiki 2025 True Crime, thank you Kiki, thank you for being here. Also Miss Ann, I saw Miss Ann, I hope you feel better soon, Miss Ann. And then I also see GA64 and Mama and Michelle, thank you for being here. Show Poodles, the title kind of says it all, because I was thinking about it. I watched Mob Crew and I thought, okay, this has got to be a title for tonight's show. Hey Cinderella, good to see you. Yeah, I think that we all feel like little cats. I feel like a cat. Maybe that's why I got the sharper nails this time. Because, you know, I don't eat fish sticks, but cats do. So I don't know. I think he's messing with the wrong group, but they're trying to pass this footage on, right? Like it's something huge, and it's really nothing compared to what we see on the lights video.
And I mean, how much sleep have you lost?
Not this one. That was last night's show. But either way, it's
And I mean, obviously, it seems like, what has it been like working with law enforcement? Have they been great?
They really messed me up when they did this beautiful revamp on their interface here. And hold on one second. Let me pull this in. Sorry, guys. I had it in here yesterday, but I forgot I had to erase it because of space issues. So, well, that's weird. I thought I had it in there. Saved. Okay. Either way, let me show you what I'm talking about just from a vantage point. So the lights video, and you can see where there's one of the lights, because there's a couple of light sources in the video, right, that we can see. Subject 1, subject 2, that's what they've called them from the beginning. And they're obviously moving, but this is like a little still shot of it, and you can see the circle. The dot in the middle is obviously a light. And this is where the camera view is coming from. So it's a corner house on Stafford that points in that direction. So just to give you kind of a reference point of the more important video, in my opinion, because at 3 a.m., we find out that Katie somehow came out with the flashlight, went back with the flashlight. She met someone, but then Chris from Mob Crew has connections, right? And metadata doesn't lie. So if they send Chris over their raw data, which comes in forms of events. So the way he explained it, now I don't have a Ring doorbell system, so I have no idea. And I think that they were using, help me out if you could in the chat, it might come to me, but it's a different brand. Hey, Borna Honey. Hey, WV Holla Girl, good to see you guys. Feisty Cats. We're Feisty Cats, Kiki, because, you know, I mean, it's really frustrating. You know, I mean, even today I was at Voices of Truth because I'm a mod over there, and they did a great show. Definitely go check them out, guys. It was awesome. But it was frustrating. It is frustrating. It's just frustrating all around because especially some of the really off the wall, and I'm trying not to be rude, but like some of the theories that people are coming up with are absolutely stupid. And I hate calling people stupid because I don't think it's very kind. And also everybody has different levels of education or brain power. I get it, but it's just really crazy to me. If Sebastian's window was locked, the first thing that we have to think about here is that he couldn't have went out his window and locked it back. And in order for him to have left his room that night, then he would have had to go out the front door where Katie was on the couch with Chris on the phone. Okay, so I'm not saying that it would be impossible for Sebastian to have done this, but there's certain factors that are in play that we have to consider, like the window being locked and it doesn't relock from the outside. Like a bathroom window is the same way. And if Sebastian was going out to just hang out with the kids that were playing flashlight tag, he would have left the window open for himself either way so he could sneak back in my opinion. If all he wanted to do was go hang out with the kids, he would have left his window open. How do I know this? Because I snuck out of my house before. Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to get, people more in my business here, but fuck, it's like, are you kidding me right now? Like, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And hey, Tina girl. And it's like, we're expected to believe all of these theories. And if people don't, then people get upset with other people. And it's like, but did you even take the time to think that through at all? Like, even get a pen and paper out. Look, I'm not above it. I have a notebook in front of me all the time. It sits here, with a pen. And then I have other pens around. Like, I have 2 more pens just sitting here on this table. So, I mean, whatever, take the time to figure it out instead of getting upset and mad that people don't believe you. And yes, one of the neighbors had 7 cameras. 7 cameras. Oh, fuck, right? 7 cameras. Oh, uh-oh. Well, that changes things, right? It does. It changes things a lot. And it changes things a lot when you have someone like Chris from the Mob Crew that is looking at these timed events, right, through... I'm sorry, I was still looking for the exact system that they used. If anybody saw Chris, let me know, because I watched it really quick today. But it's another brand other than the Ring doorbell system. So, but it works the same. Obviously, it's surveillance. But what it does, it'll be like a minute event, right? So if something catches the camera's attention, it activates for a certain amount of time. So it'd be like a 12-second event, right? As long as the event is happening, the camera is activated because it's got I'm not technical, I don't know, it's like a motion sensor kind of way of picking things up, right? So if there's motion, it's gonna pick it up or detect it, and then it starts recording. And then what happens is that after the event's over, it's saved. And then you can go back and look at it, right? So like, say you're asleep at night and some events are happening outside your house, like somebody's so close to your vehicle or something, it's going to trip the camera off. Or they had a bunch of boats at the one house. There were several homes that had really nice vehicles parked in the driveway. So, I mean, obviously you're going to want to protect that. And then also, Katie worked for Brink, so let's just keep reminding people of that if you're new here. And she's very versed in communications technology and the technology that we're speaking of here that I'm not really even that great at. But when Mob explains it, it makes it easy, right? Or Chris at Mob. So, hey, Adam Forever 21. So, there's that. But this is what he's going off of when he's looking at the footage. And so he's very knowledgeable when it comes to this footage. And he has picked up some, this still from that footage, right? From someone's camera in the neighborhood. This is where it's coming from. Mob, right? And we see, this is how we know that there was a car at 2:58 a.m. in the neighborhood. That's how we know that. That's how we know it. But they don't want us to believe that, And there's them all looking kind of, sorry and sad, just the way that they are. And then SF puts out this photo, which is at 3:06 a.m. or 3:07, either way. And we see that the light's on in Katie's bedroom. And it's very obvious, right? So that's the whole view. And then this is the one I cropped in, right? Now, there was also said to be a cat, right? There's lots of cats in the neighborhood. The cats are telling on their footage, right? Because they're saying, oh, look at this footage, look at this person. They're trying to blame, I've heard so many theories. They're trying to blame a child waiting in for Sebastian, just like sitting waiting for Sebastian. And I don't believe that, Lori says I never snuck out of the house. Yeah, I mean, I didn't go out a window. I was of driving age, and I was driving to Olivia's dad's house, my daughter's dad's house, and I popped it into neutral and backed it out of the yard. I went out the front door. I went out the front door, but that was because my dad was sawing logs, and I thought I'd get away with it, but I didn't get away with it. Turns out, so there's that. But Lori says never. But sometimes, you know, people do that. Like kids do that. I was a kid when I did it. I was 16. And you know, so I get that. Like, I don't know. I think that a kid can totally get out. I think if there's a will, there's a way, right? And if Sebastian just wanted to go out and hang out with the kids, that still doesn't explain what happened to him. Right? Because then what, right? And we always have to keep saying that in this case. Then what? Even the theory that I'm working on with the lights video is also a then what, because we still, oh, hey, Freebird, good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. And so, yeah, you know, that's, it is what it is. Right. But we could still try to figure it out together. And I think if we all put all of the information together, that's the way to find out what happened. But the divide and the crazy, like going back and forth. And I mean, if you have a ridiculous theory, in my opinion, I'm not going to sit there and entertain it and argue with you back and forth about it. I'm just going to let you think that what you think. And, you know, if you're going to be very ignorant, I will block you. I was never a blocker, and here lately I've just been, you know, having to block people, which is weird. But anyway, it's awful that we can't get together, because I think that's one big hindrance here. And I know that somebody had said something about At Night coming out with something, and I told you guys, I think for myself, you know, I totally respect At Night, what they're doing for Sebastian's case and Seth's decision to work with them. That all is not really my main concern. My main concern is that people are out there searching for Sebastian, you know, putting pressure on. Pressure needs to be on these cases. We cannot just let these kids fall through the cracks because we don't want to hurt the people who were last with them's feelings. Because I'm here to tell you, if you're, you know, a babysitter and you're taking care of a child, you know, you're going to be held responsible for what happens to that child when they're in your care. As you should be. And you should feel responsible as an adult that that child went missing from your care. And what did Sebastian do wrong? And Chris saying he just poof disappeared. So I'm not prepared for a big show for tonight because I've been doing a lot of research. And for some reason, I keep going back to this Chris Watts thing. And it was because of a person on Facebook, I think. So they posted, and I played it before. I don't remember what the name of the video is. Isn't that horrible that I don't know my own videos? But I don't. Hey, Cal Gal, good to see you. Good to see you, C-Star. But anyway, it's back in the videos. I'll have to go take a look for it. I need to do playlists. That will help. But it was a comparison with Chris Watts, right? And he was doing the porch interview. It's kind of like the infamous porch interview before we see him being, you know, interrogated and then hooked up to the polygraph machine and then interrogated again because of the results. And then he ultimately calls his dad, Ronnie, in and tells Ronnie that, you know, Shanann was the one that took the girls' life because he's a real coward and a dirtbag. And then he changed the story later so that way, you know, his girlfriend wouldn't get in trouble for, you know, possibly really being the one to help him, in my opinion, allegedly, of course. But he's convicted and he is right where he needs to be, in jail. I don't think he's in Colorado, though. I forget where he's at. Good to see you, Lisa B, always. But that's always been a really interesting case to me. But when I was doing more of a deep dive into it, it was weird when I started going over all of these interviews, like the porch interview, some of the language that was used And even Chris Watts said that he hopes they didn't vanish. Well, everybody that has common sense in our brain knows that people don't vanish, right? It's impossible. That is the one thing that we could probably say safely in Sebastian's case, is that he didn't vanish, or that like aliens didn't take him. Sorry, alien people of YouTube. No. And so where is Sebastian then? What happened to him, right? He didn't just vanish. Just like Shanann and the girls and Nico, who wasn't born yet, didn't just vanish. No, he had already taken their lives in a very horrible fashion, right? Horrible fashion. Not that any way of taking their lives would have been fair or just or right or justifiable, any of it. It's awful and sad, especially when we think that, you know, basically he did it because of the girlfriend. He could have just left. You don't kill somebody for that. You don't, especially children, your own children at that. But either way, I'm preaching, you know, to the chorus here. Either way, there was so many really consistent statements between the cases. You know, he didn't want to speculate. And of course, we know from watching Deception Detective that that's one of the red flags, right? If somebody doesn't want to speculate on what happened, yeah, Born a Honey, absolutely, Scott Peterson, I agree there. And, you know, and he's so narcissistic, you know, just, yeah. But it's just odd when I'm watching these things back, and, you know, and what the billboards are saying to me ring true. And these are things that At Night did. You know, I'm actually happy that they've done these things, because Sebastian doesn't deserve to be treated this way. He doesn't. You know, was it worth it? Was it worth all of this? I think they would say no in a heartbeat, because they never thought that we were going to continue to talk about Sebastian's case. They wanted us to all stop talking about it, but that never happened. And Chris even said himself, he never thought it would get to be this big. And Katie said herself that she never dreamed that this would ever happen or be a reality, right? So, I mean, I bet you she never thought her statement would be on a billboard. Because I don't know, Katie, it just doesn't look good for you. It doesn't look good for you. And I know that you don't like Mob because he has this footage. And I know it gets everybody raging mad, right? And then Fish Sticks puts out this new footage, which isn't even relevant, in my opinion, to what's going on. Because what's really important is to know that Katie's light was still on at 3:06, and she told everyone that she went to bed around midnight. Chris wanted to make that crystal clear. Told Duchess for the missing, I want to make this crystal clear. And she says, okay, and she's listening to him. And he makes it crystal clear that Katie went to bed at midnight. Whoa, wait a minute. We need to make sure. Got to make this crystal clear, Duchess. Sure did. Why is Katie's light on at 3:06 a.m.? Don't forget that they tried to cover that up to begin with. And what I'm saying about cover it up, I mean literally take something and blur out that detail. And they still put it out. This is the thing. They paid this guy $16,000. Oh, sorry, $15,000, excuse me. $15,000 just to do something that stupid and we're looking at it, and it, you know, it's removed, right? There was a strip over this, and you could do it with your software. You take in it and you just add it in there, you know, you press a button, and then you can make it as big or as small as you want. It could be a box, it could be a rectangle, you can make it a circle, you can make it a heart, and you just put it on there, and it's all blurred. And that's what they did, but they did it in a straight strip across the picture, just like I have it up here, over the window, and said blurred for privacy. Blurred for privacy. Cat claws are out. Blurred for privacy, really? Because you don't want us to see this? Okay, but none of us are going to take that down or off, or we don't realize that we could do that. As creators, we don't know that we can add and take away like that. And it was also added to this portrait here. Same thing. Same thing. It's crazy. And this is the same thing here. They put this photo out of Sebastian. He's got a phone, he's got his, you know, computer, he's happy, right? And then in this photo, there's something really wrong here. And most people wouldn't maybe see it that don't like edit photos or, you know, don't create videos. But whoever did this did a really bad job. And I love pointing it out. It's so hilarious to me that you suck this bad. But you can see it, and please feel free to zoom in, pinch to zoom. But you can see that the blur that they tried to blur out on the back of Sebastian's neck, it actually leaks over onto the light fixture cover, right? Or the, the light switch cover. My bad. I'm not good with all those technical house terms or whatever. But, you know, either way, it's right there. You can see it, and there was something underneath of that on Sebastian's neck that they wanted to cover up, and they didn't want us to see, but they wanted us to see this picture. But heaven forbid we see this. Because again, my cat claws are going to come out when I see this child was abused, grabbed by the back of the neck. I don't think there's anything cute or funny about that. And I want to know what happened to him. You know? Hey, Christy Smith. Hey, Mickey Shell. Thank you for being here. KJ Mac, nice to see you. And it's like, I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on here. Hey, Sabrina Smith. Welcome in, everybody. I'm sorry if I miss you. I'm sorry. It's just, oh, hey, SI officer. You know, it's just very, it's very frustrating to me. It's really frustrating to me because people kind of are playing this like it's a game and pretending like they're all about finding out what happened and feigning outrage. It's weird to me. It's like you really don't care if you're gonna sit there and say that yes, that's Sebastian in the video. That, I mean, I really don't believe that somebody was waiting for Sebastian there. I don't believe that Sebastian could have made it out of the house with everything being locked, nothing being tampered with. That is what Chris said on Smiley Stories World. Nothing on the exterior of the home was tampered with. Everything was locked. Also said that on Web Sleuths, right? And then, you know, Trisha says, well, did Katie do that? Like, did she lock up? And he's like, did Katie do what? You know, and then she's like, did Katie lock the doors? Right? And he was very offended at that question. Well, did Katie do that? Did she do what? He goes like that to her. Well, she's asking a question. There were two capable people in the house that night. So, yeah, I think Sebastian could have locked up the house. Sure. I mean, and that's another thing. They always wanted us to think that Sebastian couldn't do things, you know, like a normal person. And he's hey, runs with scissors. He's very capable of locking a door. He had the code to one of the doors. You would think if he was really, really I mean, because I don't know, maybe I might forget a code or something like that. I mean, I don't know, but it's just like a code is harder to remember than having a key, right? Turning a key is easier, I would think. And again, it was like all of these things that Sebastian could do, but then they want us to believe that he can't. It's weird. And no, Sebastian didn't end up like over in the construction zone, SF. He didn't. People would have saw him over there. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know why he believes this. I've tried to look at this footage, right? To me, it looks like it's a cat in the neighborhood, right? And that this child, he looks like he's a teenager, not a little. It's not a little child. I must have erased him. I think I was like mad. I think I remember now what I did. I think I erased them for space because I needed more space, but I was like, I'm not even gonna go back to these again, right? Because we talked about it already, and I don't think that giving him more attention is helpful, because SF seems like, an attention whore to me, and like he's just trying to like find any way to get some, and he's really thirsty, and it's just like it's kind of nauseating to me that he would be that way, especially because there's plenty of other cases that he could take on. Now, I don't know how much money is left on the 15,000. I mean, that's a good amount of money. He also said that he doesn't work for cheap, and he also, said he makes, buku an hour. I don't really give a shit how much he makes, And I love my daughter. She just texted me. I guess Brian Koberger got 4 life sentences. That just happened. My daughter, she's so funny. So they're thirsty. Kiki, they're so thirsty, and it's like, gosh, and and it's all these people that are like jumping on this bandwagon. Now, don't get me wrong. Excuse me. I was like side-eyeing Bobby a little bit whenever she said, I don't want the posters up in the neighborhood anymore, the flyers. I'm like, that's kind of, you wouldn't feel that way if it was your kid, is basically how I felt about that statement. So I get people referencing it. I do. Because I understand, we're all speculating. But what I don't understand is running with something that isn't true at all. I mean, that's where I kind of think it's, again, do I think that kids can do horrible things to other kids? Of course. I mean, look at Slender Man. When they did the Slender Man stuff, the girls got together for a sleepover, and they like ganged up on the other girl. It's kind of like YouTube. It's like living on YouTube. And you got to be careful of who you go in the woods with, because those girls might end up, cutting you, man. It's bad. It's rough out there. Rough. Oh, really? Lisa B always says plus 10 years for burglary. Oh my goodness. He doesn't surprise me that he burgled something too. Freaking jerk. But CB makes enough money, in my opinion. Yeah, well, and that's the thing in this case, Kiki. I think it's money is the big one, right? And it's just, even when we look at the corruption, even to that level, KJ Max says SF is uninteresting and annoying, so I have no need to hear about him. And the footsies, on the other hand, too many holes in their storyline. I agree, KJ Mac. I know. Well, and it's so weird because he did nothing for Sebastian's case, and then all of a sudden, he's out there trying to go after me, and which is weird as hell. I can't tell you how weirded out I was to see a post the way I did. But then he comes out with this nonsense, and he's blaming kids now. And I'm like, I can't even feel sorry for myself at that point, even though people don't think I'm a human being and they think that they could be like ruthless and horrible to me. But it's so funny because it's just like, I can't even complain because look at what they're doing to these kids. And then, you know, it's disgusting. And he's like, I have all this footage. Bring it out then, bitch. What are you waiting for? Bring it. Ain't nobody scared. You're the only one trying to do that. Hold it over our head. Do it. Nobody's afraid of you, SF. Nobody. We laugh at you over here. We think you're a joke. Okay? So, you know, and it just, and then he adds insult to injury with, you know, doing it to Sebastian. Because didn't he say that he works for Sebastian and not Katie and Chris? Because I think that's what he said. If I'm not mistaken on the Lore Lodge, he said that. Yeah, the judge was not happy with him, C-Star. Yeah, and they shouldn't be. Oh my gosh, those 4 kids, I'm going to tell you, he's going to pay big for taking them out of the world, because I could tell they were going to do something really fantastic and just good people, good humans that you'd want to grow up and be the ones to say, hey, enough is enough, quit with the crap, and just be nice people. And it's too much. Well, I don't think Bobby did anything, Christy Smith, this time, because I do know that okay, so Bobby did come out, right? And and anytime that you put yourself out there, you are going to face people's opinions. First of all, you're going to also face the fact that there's some people out there that would rather make up a rumor because it's interesting to them to see if it'll be believed. And it's you know, something that most people grow out of. But I don't think Bobby did anything this time. I think it was because of the footage that was put out, and because she said that her kids were out playing flashlight tag the night that Sebastian went missing. Right. So, there's that, you know, like but then I guess it's been alleged that SF is now saying that Sebastian apparently got out of his house somehow on his own. See, and this is the thing they keep on saying, and they want us to believe the narrative that they started from the beginning, which was he walked out by himself, you know. And then even Caitlin Miller asked both parents in the beginning, does Sebastian, you know, do this ever? You know, has he ever done it? Is this normal? They both said no, but Katie was more elaborate with what she said and her no, that Sebastian doesn't do that, you know. Hashtag Chris Proudfoot wears granny panties. Oh, Lisa B. always, it's hilarious. I got so mad when I found out he took all of Sebastian's underwear. I said I was going to take his, but then I was like, ooh, that's probably worse for me than it is for him. So I thought, oh, never mind. SI officers. And well, it is terrible. SI officer, it's terrible. And they just expect us to believe this garbage, even though we have this, right, with the metadata attached to it. So it's not like it's, you know, it doesn't lie. We all lie as people, sure, but this won't lie. It's imprinted on there. So it shows where it came from, right? So it doesn't really matter about anything, really, that they're saying. And I think it just like solidifies it that they put a blur over a picture like this and expected us not to figure it out. It's just kind of like, you guys are some sorry sons of bitches right there. Those 3, they should be ashamed of themselves for real. Like, I don't understand how. And then this is another. Crispy spends all of his time trolling on YouTube, and now he has an army of trolls that work with him. in conjunction with what he wants them to be doing, and it's sad because it's a lot of people that don't really have a lot in their real lives, so I can't really fault people too much, I guess, but they don't take the time to even try to analyze something properly and come up with a better, rebuttal. They do act like rug addicts to me too, Freebird. It's like math, we were talking about math last night, not arithmetic. We were talking about math. And it's, even if somebody, I think too, and even if somebody is like 100% stone cold sober, I still don't think you could pull off a crime that you're not going to get caught for. It's just like me when I was 16 thinking I was going to actually like take a car that was sitting in the driveway and nobody, I always thought my dad was sleeping, you know what I mean? And my mom used to work overnight. So I thought I was golden, right? But I was like, no, you're not, because you're dumb and you're going to get caught, even though because my house you couldn't sneak out of. It was my bedroom was on, the second floor. So you couldn't really sneak out of that one. But yeah, it's, you kind of live and learn. And then especially when you watch true crime, it makes you not want to commit crimes, in my opinion. I mean, maybe some people are like, hey, let me see if I can pull it off better than this one. Look at that guy. He's stupid. He got caught. I don't think of it like that necessarily. I just think of it like you're going to get caught, right? Eventually. Because, look, one neighbor had 7 cameras. 7. Okay? People are not, you're going to get caught. Somebody somewhere is going to tell. And I know that some of these neighbors are probably sticking up for them. Or they're scared to say it. I get that too. If I lived there, I'd be afraid to say it too. It's just, it goes with the territory when you live in a place like a good old boy society, where it's like you have to be careful who you mess with, type of a thing, Yeah, he is. Yeah, thanks, Runs with Scissors, says Adam. Seth is already working on Sebastian's law. Yeah. And I'd love to see a law that says, make sure that it's not a crime if you're going to call it, no foul play. Because, it's very easy to say no foul play was involved just because you believe the parents. But, believing someone and whether they did it or whether they did it or not is not the same thing. You have to prove that they did or prove that they didn't. To me, you would have to almost do both in that situation, right? Try to prove that they did or prove that they didn't. And I've done that analyzing this case. Could it have been Seth? And I've analyzed Seth before. We played audio of his last night because I do think it's important to hear from the parents. Yeah, Kiki says, Lady Freedom, I had a tree and I had to climb out my window onto the tree. LOL. No cameras then. Oh gosh, yeah, exactly. Kiki, that's so funny. I never even thought of that, girl. I'll tell you what. And that's the thing. Like these kids have no privacy. That's hilarious. But no, really, like parents need to use that to their advantage. But then look how they come around of it. They find ways. We always will find the way around it. It just, I do think strongly if there's a will, there's a way. Using it for good or bad. So, Carla, good to see you. And that's anything, I really believe that. KJ Max says, if LE fails to seek evidence, it's easy to say no foul play. Yeah, that's a big one. I think of it that way as well. Because if they own it, And the reason I say that is because they kept saying we're operating under the assumption that he walked off. We're operating under the assumption that he walked off. Now, Chris and Katie have said that to everyone except for Nancy Grace and America's Most Wanted. And correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, please. But respectfully, don't be like, "Hey, you're dumb." but no, I'm just saying, like, I do believe, because Nancy Grace flat out said, "What is your theory?" And then Katie started going off on like, "Well, I don't," and then Nancy's like, "No, your theory. What do you think happened?" And she said, "I think he might have been taken by someone," because she said they've looked all over, like they've searched all around for him and they haven't found him yet. And so that's what makes me think somebody might have taken him. That's the first and only time I had heard that until that time, and up until then, right? Because it was always, "Oh, he's not a runner. He never runs, but he did. I don't know why he walked out the door." That was the story. He's not a runner, never ran before. I don't know why he walked out the door. So, and you're not in trouble, you're not in trouble, all the way up into that point. Well, then when they went on the year anniversary kind of, shows that they did for Sebastian being missing for a year, it was also said by the reporters that they still think that Sebastian walked off, right? And then they turn around on America's Most Wanted, and this is the picture on the screen from America's Most Wanted, where they're playing with the toys and stuff. They didn't do it in Sebastian's or in their home. They didn't show Sebastian's room. Instead, they took a whole bunch of toys of his that they chose, because it doesn't look like the stuff that he maybe would still be playing with, and then played with it on the counter, and they were both smiling. It was weird. They were like, best life, hopefully this will be over soon, and it was weird. And then they turned around and said, "Oh yeah, he could have been taken," right? And then the end of the flashlight video was mysteriously not added in. They took it out. Why would America's Most Wanted do that? I'm still wondering. If you guys want to email me or contact me, please, America's Most Wanted, because I'm dying to know why you would take the end of that video out and act like it didn't exist. Or did somebody just give you the wrong tape and they took it out? I'd really want to know. Hey, Canadian True Crime 2024, good to see you. Christy, yes, there's a lawsuit, going to be a big case, Lady Freedom. Yeah. Oh, which case? I'm sorry, I must have missed it, guys. KGMX says Ellie precluded other possibilities when they latched onto the belief that the Foots are honest folks. Yeah, I think so too, KJ Mac. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And it made the public, especially people who have a very high trust in law enforcement, to be like, "Oh yeah, okay," and I mean, there's probably a lot of people that are like, "Oh, nobody had anything to do with it, and why are people harping on it?" Well, I'll tell you why. Because everything is not adding up the way it should. And when that doesn't happen, there's something wrong there. I'm not saying there's foul play 100%. I can't say that. I don't know. But it's just not adding up. It's wrong. Oh, okay. Okay, Miss Ann. Well, just come in and out as you please, girl. You don't have to. Kiki says Gloria was only a child for very protective parents. Well, yeah, I mean, my parents were not. No, I had to be home for dinner every night at 6:30. Like it was very, and like I said, that was me getting in trouble with my daughter's father. I got in a lot of trouble with him like when we were younger. Not, big trouble or anything, just with my parents. Because I thought he was a pretty cool guy. Turned out to be a real shit dick hole. So, that case hits my heart. I had blood clot from a brain aneurysm last year at a car accident. Oh my goodness. Oh, Lisa, I'm so sorry to hear that. it's just all of these cases are really hard to deal with. And then, you know, when we add on top of it all of the hostility that we hear from Chris Proudfoot, it's infuriating. It really is. And then also just how a mom is just okay with the status quo is very suspicious, in my opinion. Carla says, Freebird, I've been drug-free for 20 years and alcohol-free for 9. Oh, that's great, Carla. Oh, that's very fantastic. Tina says, hey, lady, in the America's Most Wanted video, CP pointed the tank-looking toy and pointed it at her, pretending to hit her with it. Oh, no shit. No shit, Tina girl. Oh, man. Wow. No kidding. You know, and that's not surprising. And I mean, I don't know, maybe it was because there was like a really hot girl from America's Most Wanted who he was, you know, maybe looking to take out to dinner later. I don't know. Allegedly, in my opinion. It's so weird. That is so weird. I'm gonna have to go take a look at it. I was gonna pull in the America's Most Wanted video too for us again. I mean, why not? They only did like a 7-minute segment. I mean, it's like, you know, we could pick apart that one, but I'm just curious, why would they do that, you know? And it could be because I'm a little bit sad, right? It kind of it makes me lose faith in that show and the reason why it's there in the first place. And, you know, I'm just a YouTuber and stuff, but like I did grow up watching that show and I always just thought, you know, and I remember seeing, you know, Adam Walsh's, who is John Walsh, his son's movie, you know, on what happened to him and that weirdo, you know, and I just always thought that it was about truth and justice, and that's what I'm about. And I don't like when I see things that aren't, you know, portraying that they're about truth and justice, and then they take the end of that video out. To me, that's stealing truth and justice from Sebastian. They might as well have just yanked it right out from him, in my opinion. And I know that my opinion doesn't really matter too much on the grand scheme of things, but the issue that I have is that if they're willing to do that to Sebastian, then how many other people have they done that to? And if we don't stop it now that we know that this happened to Sebastian, then there's going to be many, many, many more people who are going to have information in their case taken out when they go to America's Most Wanted. Because again, it's supposed to be about truth and justice. Tina Girl says, it was weird. It's like CP telling KP you're next. If you say anything, you're next. Yes. He's done that so many times though, guys. He has done that so many times. And I have a special members only plan for you guys this week. So I think that we will do it on Saturday night because, again, we're going to have a special guest Monday, and Sunday I'll be preparing for that. So I want to do that on Saturday, but I have a very, very special members only plan for you. And he has done that since the very beginning. And even in attacking little small creators like myself, who really, as I said before, my opinion doesn't matter. You know, I could spout off and, you know, say the F word on here and, you know, cuss like a sailor if I want. I try really hard not to, but I do. And it's just like a little show, right? Lady Freedom. It's my raw narrative. It's a narrative as a story. It's my story. It's the way I see it. And they're so bothered by me and so bothered by it. So, as I said, we're going to discuss it, but I think it's something more private. that I'd like to keep more private. So, Runs with Scissors says, take Bullhorn Betty to court, but then Seafoot threatens people and gets away with it. Precisely, Runs with Scissors. And that's another person who has been drugged through the ringer by this case. And it's not Sebastian's fault by any means. Please make no mistake about that. I am happy to oblige, because I'm going to tell you right now, this is exactly the nasty crap that I would love to stand up for and against. And I'm ready. You know what I mean? I'm ready to fight it, because when you're willing to go after smaller people than you are and threaten women, and, you know, I mean, it's sick. Do you know that I had to, I mean, now I was wearing high heels when Bullhorn Betty came and I met her. I'll tell you this. I had to go down and hug her. You know, she's shorter than me by a lot, you know, especially in heels, I think. But I mean, I'm not terribly tall either. I mean, I'm 5'6". So I mean, it's definitely one of those things that, you know, Chris, what a bully, and like what a big baby, and like it even made me even more like realize even more that like these people are so disturbing, because they don't go after people their own size. They pick on people that are smaller than them. Like even in stature, that's not a fair fight. Think of a boxing match. You have, you know, the featherweights, and then you have the, you know, heavyweights division. You have different divisions, because it's not fair if you don't, you know, especially a man, and that big old pig. Are you kidding me? Oh, it just makes me sick to the bone, man. Yeah, and that's it, Christy. And you know, we have to. And I choose to be nicer. And I know that a lot of people look at that and they say, "Wow, she's weak." It's a lot harder to be nice. Trust me. It's a lot easier to pop off. That's why, you know, sometimes I'll pop off, because it's like, you know, it kind of feels, you know, it kind of releases the pressure a little bit. Hey, Kathy Bartholomew, good to see you. KJ Max says, Foot trying to be playful with absolutely no self-awareness, so concerned about his image as per usual. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, you know, he's a tough guy, right? He's a man's man. I'm black and white. I'm black and white, ma'am. I mean, I would have loved, I bet you he winked at that lady. Oh my God, I would love to see the footage. It'd be hilarious. I would laugh either way, whether he did or not, because I'm sure he gave her some kind of weird, like, Burt Reynolds stare, you know? And not that Burt Reynolds is weird. Sorry if you guys like Burt Reynolds. I was just trying to think of, like, an old, creepy stare. Sabrina says, I know it makes me so angry. Well, and it's not right for Sebastian, you know? He doesn't deserve this in his case. He doesn't deserve people taking the end out of a video. That's very important. And then having his stepdad and mom peddle this bull crap. It's wrong. And then blaming the neighborhood kids as if they had anything to do with it because they were out playing flashlight tag, or one of them lost their cat. You know, any of it doesn't constitute them being dragged into this. And especially because they went and helped, you know, they sound like good boys that would go help someone else that was in need. Because some kids would look and be like, oh, I got to play my video game right now, or I got to, you know, I'm trying to watch my YouTube, you know, hopefully they find him, you know. But like for them to have a heart to go out and look, and people being like, wow, they were overdoing this. Well, I mean, but who's going to want to search when you're going to get blamed for doing it, right? If you search. That's terrible. Lisa B always says rehab and physical therapy work wonders with determination and faith. Drag a little on the left leg, but working it. Good, Lisa B always. And see, that's why we have to keep going. We have to. We have to keep going. A body in motion stays in motion. Carla, hugs to you too. Sorry guys if I'm not paying as much attention to chat. Well, that's my problem with it too. I feel like there was a unconscious bias, definitely. Christy Smith says, me too, and I feel they didn't look into the case good because they was giving credit to KP. Yeah, and I think they gave her too much credit. And, you know, I can understand, and I would accept someone coming out and saying that and saying, hey, look, we thought that there was nothing going on here of foul play, but now we're doing an investigation and we are realizing that there might be, right? But then again, I know they don't want to give up who their person of interest is, but a lot of times they will. A lot of times they give up the person of interest, which is, again, can cause a media circus. Maybe that's why they don't want to. I understand that. I thought for a while there could be strategy, right? They could be strategizing in order to not, like I said, tip anybody off. Because here we have three persons of interest. In the beginning, you're thinking the parents, right? If you're thinking foul play, you're thinking the parents or someone abducted this child. There was an Amber Alert issued, but they never said why the Amber Alert was issued, other than Sebastian being a person who may have trouble getting back home, right? Like, so if he left on his own, he may have trouble getting back home. That was what they said. But an Amber Alert traditionally has criteria that must be met in order for them to put one out, and that would be something like an abduction, right? Typically, it's an abduction. Typically, we get a vehicle description. This time we didn't, you know. This time we didn't. Hey, Holly S., good to see you. Melissa with 1S says there needs to be a law. Every missing child is a crime until proven otherwise. I agree with that. That is one of my big ones. Because I agree with what Seth is doing as well. I think, you know, most of the time, if something's working right, let's keep it in place. It's working well. But we do have to consider a lot of factors, especially when it comes to true crime, because people are always, again, like where there's will, there's a way. So people are always trying to find a way to skirt around the system, right? So, and again, when it comes to missing kids, we're not dealing with good people here. We're dealing with the worst of the worst that would hurt a child. Now, if somebody does it on accident, that's one thing. You know, I understand not wanting to be in trouble, I guess. But I mean, when we look at a parent, I don't know how your guilt wouldn't overtake you. And it's just like, again, with Chris Watson, the porch interview, we know what he did to them already. And we see his responses, how cold. He laughs through the interview. It's a nervous laugh. I mean, it's not something where he starts laughing like, haha, I did this, right? He's nervous as hell. His body language shows us that. He's holding himself like this. Whenever somebody does that, or they cross their arms, fold their arms, that's a very defensive maneuver, right? Because that's all you can really do at that time, is kind of to put a barrier between you and the other person. So when somebody does that, it's very defensive. He was also rocking like Katie was, but he was rocking like this instead of doing one of these. Like Katie was like doing this the whole entire time. On the porch interview, this is Chris, just like this, you know? And then when he sees the footage that Nate the neighbor has, he does one of these, right? And he's like, his head, like, you know, that's a self-soothing, you know, and he's like on his hands up here and he's like, oh shit, you know, that's his oh shit moment. We watched it happen on the body cam footage. That's another thing that we don't see in this case, you know. Sammy. Oh my goodness, Sammy. Good to have you, Sammy. I just saw your I just saw your message. That's funny. Or your chat. I know, yeah, don't mess with the cats of true crime. Oh man. We'll have to see if Chloe's in here. If she watches the replay, that's too funny. Don't mess with the cats of crime. Because, you know, we're going to figure you out. We're going to figure you out, you know. You know, I did not get an alert for Sebastian, Lori. I was in Missouri at that time. But the way that I heard about Sebastian's case was in Pascal's chat, is how I found out about it, was because I was following Riley Strain's case. So, that cat must be Puss in Boots. That's funny. Carla, crap pick. I love that one. That one is like by far the best. Crap pick. Yeah, because it is a really crappy pick. Nobody even got to pick him. You know, he was unopposed. So, you know, they got stuck with him. It was horrible, you know. No alert in Nebraska, says Lisa B. Always. See, that's interesting. We need to do better with that. I mean, it's just like in the Decker girls story. And I think I still have Travis Decker still on the loose, you know. I don't know if they have a bigger reward out for this guy, but he has been alleged to have taken the lives of his 3 beautiful little girls, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. And it's just tragic, you know. He was begging the courts for time with the kids, and the minute he got time with them, this happened. So absolutely devastating. There has to be better laws in place, and I think as a society, many of us would agree, especially if you spend enough time on YouTube, that people really need to get their mental health in check. And I don't mean that in a mean way at all, because as many of you all know, and I've shared with you, I do have PTSD, so I have a mental illness myself. And when you go through counseling and you're able to heal from that, you understand yourself more and others more. And so you learn to be a little bit more kind to how other people are feeling too, and more in tune to what they're going through. And so it can really be good for everyone in society for people to have a better understanding of who they are. Because a lot of times when people are hateful to each other, it's because they're very insecure and they're lacking something. It doesn't say as much about them as it says, you know, it doesn't say as much about you as it says about them. And we've talked about this a lot when it comes to Chris and Katie Proudfoot, because again, I believe that they were the problem, not Sebastian. I believe that they tried to put that on Sebastian as if he was the problem, but he wasn't. They were the problem, right? And many parents do that. They decide that, you know, I've done everything I can for you your whole entire life. And I mean, even going back to the Watts interviews, I watched Chris Watts' mother. She's, you know, the main flying monkey, you know, the big cheese. And she was the reason why Chris probably was the way that he was, you know. But she's like, I don't know why my sweet little son would do something. No. And Shanann is all evil. And, you know, and I mean, it's like, dude, her life was taken though, you know. Do I agree with everything Shanann did? No. But I like her a hell of a lot more than Chris, and I don't think that she deserved anything that happened to her or her unborn son, her 2 beautiful daughters. She should have been able to go live and be herself, right, in the world. She wasn't ever hurting anybody. He did, you know. Born a Honey says, I was following Sebastian because it was the same day Maddie Soto went missing. Oh, and I was following Riley too. Cool, Born a Honey. That's really neat. And that's the power of the true crime community, right? Because it was people who were coming into Pascal's chat and saying, hey, did you guys hear about Sebastian Rogers? And I'm like, Sebastian Rogers, And so I went and I looked him up and I'm like, oh, hey, Sebastian. Okay. He's a cute kid. He's, missing. Hendersonville, Tennessee. All right. And let me put him up here. And he's just so adorable. I think one of my favorite pictures of Sebastian, other than the never give up picture, or refuse to quit, excuse me, it's refuse to quit. This one is probably one of my favorites, the one where he's wearing the orange shirt. I think it's on the side. Sorry, I always get that mixed up. And this one's a good one because he's so cute in that hat, but I really like this one because he's kind of looking at us all like, really? Could you please find me already? So, and then you got these two idiots just playing with the toys on the counter, But yeah, I mean, I go over, I look, I see this kid, and I'm like, all right, let's take a look, And like I told you guys, I thought the Holly Thompson interview was the first interview, but turns out it was Duchess for the Missing that they went on. Now, Katie's, that brings me to another interesting point, that if you weren't in the Voices of Truth tonight, definitely go check out their live, because they dropped some bombshells. And I didn't have enough time to like really wrap my mind around everything. They dropped some bombshells. So Katie's cousin, allegedly, in my opinion, was the one that called Duchess, right? And or maybe she messaged or emailed her. I don't know how close the relationship actually was at that point, but this person was one of Duchess's viewers and just so happened to be Katie's cousin. And said, look, my cousin Katie, her son's missing. Can you please help? And look, there's people that love me. There's people that hate me. There's people that probably just tolerate me. There's some people that maybe don't know. Okay. They're not sure yet. Fair enough. I think Duchess did a really nice job. Okay, so don't come for me. I know, but I do think that she was trying to help. I mean, it appeared that way to me. Now, I might come up here at a different time and be like, well, I figured out that no, that's not true. But at that point, you had Trevor Lee, right, who seemed to have wanted to help. There were a couple others, like Arctic Fox, I think was one. I share his stuff out because he's always posting missing flyers. Like, look, to me, we don't have to be best friends, and you don't even have to like me. I'll still share your stuff if you're sharing missing children, missing people. I care about people. I care about kids. That's not going to stop me or hinder me from sharing out things that you're posting, because we don't agree on Sebastian's case. And it's so funny to me because I think that a lot of us would probably get along in the real world, but people are so like, and even myself as a creator, I could be so caught up into like YouTube and everything, and like, oh, this one said this one, this, and oh, look at that one, of course. I mean, I get pissed just like the next person, but I think it's interesting that a lot of us would probably get along fine in the real world, and it's just this kind of YouTube craziness that hinders that. But I thought that she did a decent job of coming out and showing, that she was trying to ask questions, hey, please share to locate Sebastian, and she did a lot of really nice things. in my opinion, it seemed to me like Chris and Katie were not as gracious again. And I've said that on all fronts. You know, I thought that they were very aggressive when they came up. Well, Katie wasn't aggressive, as more like annoyed and like, oh my God, you know, like that's kind of when I started doing, you know, Katie being that, you know, like it's all expected, you know, oh, well, go find my kid for me. And, you know, I mean, cause I'd be out there looking, you know, myself, but again, we're not all gonna, react the same way, right? Or do the same things. So I can see that point too. But you know, they really didn't seem like they were gracious. And then again, when Katie was telling the story, Chris interrupts her and says, like, hey, you know, I'm going to make this crystal clear for everybody. And it was because he thought that Katie didn't tell it right or something, right? It wasn't even a big discrepancy, in my opinion. But I mean, definitely something to look at. So either way, this is how they got together with Duchess for the missing and went on her podcast. The first interview was with her. And then Holly Thompson was the next day. So that's how that timeline went. But then you also see a lot of odd behavior again later down the line, right? So I'm thinking, okay, this person is interested in helping. And you know what? I even said it in the beginning because I kind of was going back and I remember saying, you know, everybody needs someone. So why are people attacking, you know, certain people, like someone like Duchess, in my opinion, who was, I mean, she didn't have a nasty show where she talks about effing her husband and doing all, you know, and other people need to get some D and like, you know, I mean, like she seemed to be more respectable, right? I mean, and at least not doing nasty things in Sebastian's name. That is wrong. Talking about, you know, things of a naughty nature. Yeah, he did, Sammy G. That's when CP said you're welcome instead of the thanks for having us. Yeah, and he didn't even say it like I think I even got that, you know, tone wrong. He was more like you're welcome. And then it was awkward as hell, you know what I mean? Like, and then you figure out that, you know, because at first I was thinking, okay, you know, maybe Chris is like one of those like very serious military men, right? Like the one that you try to make laugh because you're like, God, this guy's too serious, right? You got to break it up a little bit. I'm an empath, so that's my go-to is humor when I feel very uncomfortable, if you guys haven't noticed. But sometimes guys like that, I'll be like, okay, try to make them laugh, you know, because they're too uptight, you know. I don't like that energy, and so I try to lighten the mood. But it turns out he's not like that. He's more like a controlling, narcissistic buffoon. So, you know, he's not overly serious. He's just, you know, and that was the first impression. And then, of course, like I said, him not letting Katie talk was why I realized, okay, he's controlling. And then we realized that he wasn't there at, you know, that weekend. He claims, he is alleging, Chris Proudfoot alleges that he was not there that weekend. At all, like not any of it, you know, that he hadn't been home since the beginning of February. And the last time he saw Sebastian was in the beginning of February. No, oh no, yeah, Lisa B, absolutely. I cannot, there's no way that I would associate. There's no way. But see, when Sebastian's case started, I had no idea who those people are at all. I'm sitting here like a very new green creator, and I'm like, Clue who and this and this person. And then I'm like, maybe I saw some of those people in Pascal's chat or something, but I don't know. I said, I'm like, who are these people? The first time that I listened to Clue was when Chris Proudfoot went on there talking like Sling Blade. And I was horrified. I'm like, these people are true crime? Because you got to understand, I would watch people like Grizzly. I would watch people like Stephanie Harlow and Derek Levasseur. They have a show together. And then he started a Cold Case channel, and I watch him. Still to this day I watch them. But because that's where I kind of try to go. I like Annie Elise. I like, there's certain people that I would watch. I never watched any of those people. I had no idea who they were. And I was so upset when I realized what they were doing to Sebastian, and then they wanted us to believe that they weren't in on it the whole time. But then they tell us that they're in on it the whole time. And I was like, what am I, why is this stepfather? This is my way of thinking. Why is this stepfather playing? I'm like, he plays too much, this guy. And then, Voices of Truth played today. It was, Crime Stories Obsessed, Crime Stories Obsessed. And he called into that show acting crazy as well. And I'm thinking, this guy plays too much. Why is he doing this? And I was just so new. I'm like, what is happening here? And why are these creators okay with this? And I was thinking, are they trying to trip him up? Are they having him on the show, like, to see if he'll talk, right? Give him enough rope and he'll, the rest. But it's not that. It's way more than that. Because Crispy, he spent all of his time trolling the internet. Sorry, I meant to hit the chat button and I took that down. Hey, Mama Bear, good to see you. Yeah, see, Carla says he was there. And that's the thing. A lot of people believe that he was there. I think he very well could have been there. I don't want to say 100%. I hate speaking in absolutes in this case because, look, I could be wrong. But I do think that it's a strong possibility, like 99%, that he was there. I do think he was there. I want to know more about the poker party, right? Of course. The most dangerous person to a narcissist is an empath who is done. Amen, Mama Bear. Amen. I agree. And you have to just be smarter than some of these people. And that's not really hard to do because they think they're going to get away with this stuff and that nobody's going to notice it. And then they'll have their fair share of people that will play it and be like, well, I don't see this. I don't see that. That's not true. No, no, they're, this person's right. And then people will be like, yeah, just like when I do it, it's going to be the same thing, and I get that. I'm not saying that, all the information I put out is the best and, everybody else's is crap. But when you're messing in a child's case like that and you have a stepfather coming up there doing that, I was appalled. I was like, I cannot believe this shit. I really can't believe it. And I thought, this has got to be a joke. But sure enough, it wasn't a joke. Oh, a T-Rex too? They've made a joke of it, Holly, yes. They have. And I have made fun of Chris for making fun of, the case, he's made fun of Sebastian. From the beginning, even him snickering in the Only Hands interview, you could hear him. especially when the reporter says, you know, did Sebastian have any weird tendencies? You know? And I'd say, well, no, my child isn't weird. He's just different. You know, but Katie doesn't say that. She just like lets her husband laugh, you know? I wish I could pinpoint it, Kiki. I do. And believe me, if we could at least get that much. But here's the thing. I can't believe that Chris Proudfoot would pay a private investigator as much money as he is said to have been paid to not provide an alibi for him, at least, and be like, hey, look, this is where I was. You know, this is where my client was. That would shut a lot of us up really quick on that one, wouldn't it? It would me. If I could see, like, what Seth produced, a time card or something like that. I don't know how his job works. I'm not going to presume that I do. But I will just say that if he was to show some proof like that, it would be a lot easier for me to believe it. But it's very hard to believe when nobody has come up with any of that. And then they all want to say, well, where's the proof of Katie's heart rate going up at 3 a.m.? Yeah, where is the proof of it? How come they won't show that? Because the first thing I would do would show my iWatch history. You know, here's my health app. This is what it says. You know, I was snoring at that time. See? I mean, I was in REM sleep at that time. I was, you know, up eating a freaking midnight snack at that time. I mean, you know, it tells you very accurately what's going on, you know, and they even have like those rings and stuff that you can wear, but I mean, it's the same thing. It's basically mapping out and keeping the information for you so you can see it, you know, and track your health on it. I mean, humor is a great healer, Adam Forever 21. It is. Yeah, I agree. You know, and some of this has just been like just so ridiculous that it's just hard to believe. You know, it is. It's hard to believe. Because I don't want to believe that law enforcement is, you know. Good night, Kiki. Thank you for being here. Thank you. That law enforcement would overlook a lead. I would never want to say that or think that. That's a scary thought for me, to think, okay, well, law enforcement's in on some crap. Like, that's scary. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to admit to that. But if it's there, it's there. I can't, you know, it is what it is. Mama Bear says, I think they intentionally made Chris stay out of town. See, and this is where I get caught up too, Mama Bear. Hold on, sorry. I'm going to put your comment up, but it's being a butt to me right now. There we go. Oh, it's such a, they've messed it up for life, I'm telling you. This StreamYard baloney. Okay, so Mama Bear says, I think that they intentionally made Chris stay out of town so he had to clean and clear. Oh, so he would have a clean and clear alibi, because it's all about winning custody of Faith. I think it was TB Senior, Kathy B, and Katie, and possibly Big D, Brian D guy. Yeah, I'm thinking that is a strong possibility, just to set his alibi. So I was saying that the other night, that I think it is a strong possibility that he may have an alibi. Just because, and I say that just because they're trying to keep Chris out of it, like you said, for Faith. And also, that's Kathy's little baby. You know, that's Kathy's little baby. And, you know, I have a baby too, and I understand. But, you know, case seclusion works. It's a good, you know, here's what you do. Your kid does something wrong, you know they did something wrong, hire a lawyer, you know, and get ready. Because, you know, they did wrong. And you know, maybe you should be the one to tell them instead of hiding it from everybody, right? Maybe you should be the one to tell. Smart thing, get a lawyer. you know. Not a whole lot, Lisa B, thankfully, hopefully. You know, I mean, we try to keep it pretty calm, pretty calm. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sammy says Clue and Jay, Trev Time and T-Rev, Pascal and others had really good shows about Sebastian until they didn't. A lot of gold in those Jay shows, interviews. Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying about Jay. I can't say much about they clip these anyways or whatever they do with them. I don't know. But I don't care. But yeah, no, I think this is interesting because this is something that I've been working on and thinking about for quite a while. Even barbecue doing recreations on site was good. Yeah, this is interesting, Sammy, because, well, one, I value your opinion. I do. I don't know about Clue because, like I said, I never heard of her before this. Jay, though, is one that I did watch, and I, you know, thought that she was doing really great coverage on even getting like the neighbor Matt. Whoop, I just put two creators together and into one. Hold on, let me have some more coffee. The coworker of Terry Bowersox, right? He came on her show, really good. I don't know about well, T-Rev, I was like, he would post, you know, how many days Sebastian had been missing. I'd repost his so I do remember Trev in the beginning, Trev Time, that is. T-Rev, I started listening to when Seth went on there for an interview. And see, that's how I knew a lot of these creators, when Seth went on for an interview, when Chris would go on it for an interview, you know, or Katie, Chris and Katie. I should say the only solo interview that Katie's ever done was the Reels interview was solo. Barbecue Lady, I don't know because I'm not a big TikToker. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Yeah, flipped and then got bizarre. And that's something that, again, I want to talk more in depth on, but it's going to have to be a private thing, or more so, because there's a lot to be said about it. And, you know, without knowing everything, I don't want to be too suspicious, but there's got to be a reason for it, right? Whether I like the true reason for it or not, I might not like it, but it is what it is again. And I just want to know the truth. And I've been looking for the truth in the crap holes of YouTube, which I don't know is if that's smart or not. Mama Bear says, I think in the one interview, Katie said she let Sebastian stay up a little longer because the light in his room was seen on about 11:30 or 11 or 11:30. Okay, so I remember that, Mama Bear. So didn't somebody say they saw like a silhouette in his window, or was that in the kitchen? Because, again, I would really like to see the Ring camera from across the street. Because, you know, remember Chris had said to Smiley that Sebastian would have been caught on camera on the Ring camera from across the street. So, aw, Adam Forever 21, you're so sweet. Seclusion Work says, I'm sorry I'm not here tonight, having a personal issue. Just want to say, well, hey, Seclusion, I'm glad that you're here. I'm so sorry. I understand that. I understand having personal issues. I totally, and I'm going to say prayers for you. You know, and I think that's another thing that's very frustrating in this case is that, you know, life doesn't stop when something like this happens. And so it's very difficult to think that, especially people that have their own issues and things like that, that they would create more on the internet. It's weird. But also where people don't have the compassion to realize that, you know, we're all just people and humans. KJ Max says, I can see that as a motive for the family, that they came together to take the child as a baby, and they do it again, in my opinion. They come together to get revenge, it seems, that Sebastian was in the way. I agree. And it's always something to do with it sounds like it's typically something to do with Chris, and something that he's gotten himself into with one of the women that he chooses to be with, right? And I'm not blaming, you know, particularly the women for that. And, you know, in my opinion. Adam Forever 21 says, wasn't there also a satellite video of somebody in the backyard a week prior? I do remember that, Adam Forever 21, but I didn't see it. I did not see it. I remember it being talked about. Listen to your brain. Lisa B always, this is great advice right here. Listen to your brain. Absolutely. I think even more so than your heart, because there can be times where my heart would get me, you know, in trouble. It's almost like when I think about being a judge, you know, that, you know, and a father sitting there saying, you know, please don't take my rights away from my kid, you know, with my kids, because, you know, I'm a vet, and, you know, I could see myself being like, oh yeah, you know, and having a heart for that situation. That's why I have no business being up there. We need people that'll be hard on those people, you know, and not let their heart get in the way. Haunting Hope says, Grr, my YouTube keeps giving black screen. Oh no, I don't know why it does that. Have you tried to turn your phone on and off? I know sometimes, but see, SI Officer was having trouble with that yesterday, and then, probably 2 days ago now, and she said it wasn't working to do that. Love you too, Seclusion Works. Thank you for stopping in. I appreciate you stopping over. I hope you feel better soon, hon. Yeah, Carla. Yeah, I did hear that Clue was on Seth's side in the beginning. Like he was, I think they were searching together or something, or she was there for one of the searches. I don't know exactly. And see, that was far behind when I first heard her. I have a list. I think it's in my other notebook. Yeah, because it has a folder. But I want to say that was in April when Chris went on there and was acting like Sling Blade. I'm wondering about the green hoodie a lot, Adam Forever 21. You know, that's one of the things. The green hoodie resembled Katie's family members. But I'm going to do a little bit more research on the green hoodie situation, kind of like in conjunction with what Hindsight, Mama Rissa, and BMW Coop were saying about green hoodie tonight. I want to do a little bit more research into that, because I think it's important, because of some of the odd signature features that were identified in both people. I think that's important to examine. So I'm definitely going to do that. You know, because those identifying features are really important. They did. I know. Lisa B always says, evidently they flip flop more than some politicians, in my opinion. Yeah, they do. And it's just odd. Like, it's one thing to go over and decide, hey, I'm going to support this person or the next, but it's another thing to be really hateful. It's weird. Ann Reynolds says, Lady Freedom, Chris was there for that. CP was there for the poker game that Saturday night, and then Sunday night he was still there until 10 p.m. in my opinion. Thanks, Ann. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are thinking that the 10 p.m. time frame is when something bad happened to Sebastian. It is what a lot of people are thinking. So, you're not alone in thinking that, Anne, because, I do find it very odd that Katie is fixated on that time frame. And it seems like she added that one in after the fact, right? Like, because, again, like we talked about yesterday in the Hands interview, Katie never speaks of the noise. It's not until Smiley Stories World that she says that she even heard a noise come from Sebastian's room at 10 p.m. So did they know about the footage in the neighborhood around 10, but then wouldn't they be smart enough to say that his window was left unlocked? I mean, that's where I'm stuck. If windows locked from the outside, that would be one thing. If he had a key to the window, it would be one thing. Mama Bear says, KJ Matt Chris told Seth on Web Sleuths he would have told... Chris told Seth on Web Sleuths he should have told him and Katie. He made it clear to Sebastian he was moving in with him full time, and also said the downside is that conversation never happened. Yeah, that wording is worrisome. I did listen to that again, and that is very worrisome, right? It's almost like, had you told us, we wouldn't have had to do something to Sebastian, right? None of this would have ever happened if we would have known that. I am picking up what you're putting down, Mama Bear. Great observation. Yeah. I think some of these flappy creators are simply opportunists. They're there to benefit their success. The success is in quotes, right? Yeah. Well, and I mean, because it's just, I think it's just a lot easier to find more people who support the negativity, which is unfortunate. It's sad. I mean, I feel sorry for these people. I do. And I do agree with you, opportunists. Yes, I do agree with that. Yeah. Because people latch on to situations when they think that they may have some sort of recognition for themselves in it. And I've seen a lot of people who are very self-serving. One person that I recognized pretty early on doing that was Stephen Crabtree. And I only say that because when he came to when he came to YouTube, he was trying to help find Sebastian at that time. In my opinion, it seemed like he was interested in helping, but then he realized that there's a lot more subscribers that come along with the hate channels, and he's like, hey, I need to do that, right? You know, and I mean, that's people's choice. I just wish I could get out of the algorithm that I'm stuck in, like with this trash. You know what I mean? Like, that is the hardest part for me. You know, especially because Sebastian doesn't deserve to be lumped with that crap either. I mean, Lisa B always says, haunting hope. I have had that happen on certain lives, like BHB. It happened 7 times today's live. Oh no! Oh gosh! I wonder if it. Well, I mean, I know a lot of us use StreamYard. I wonder if it's like a StreamYard thing. They've been doing a lot of updating too through StreamYard. Like every time I turn it on, there's like something that looks different to me, and I'm like, wait a minute, when they do this, you know? Aw, thanks, Sammy. That's so nice. C-Star says Trev Time was the first channel to bring up Sebastian in the very beginning. Okay, that's what I was thinking, C-Star. And I don't know, I wonder if it was somebody who was watching him too that was in Pascal, because I just remember people being like, Sebastian Rogers missing from Tennessee, and I'm like, okay, you know, and I went in. And Navy Shellback, I think it's money. I think it all goes back to money, right? And it's unfortunate because they may be making money now, but how sustainable is it to continue on and on like that? I mean, yeah, you're going to have some, you know, sick people that are going to enjoy that kind of activity, but I don't know. I don't think it's sustainable, in my opinion. I did, I did, Anne. Lady Freedom, did you see T-Rev when Smoke was on there? Yeah, I did. And, you know, I don't fault anybody for, you know, doing their thing up there, you know what I mean? Like, and I thought, you know, T-Rev was like somebody who was kind of, you know, he'd say prayers on there and stuff, and it was kind of nice to hear that. But I also try to be kind of leery of the people that kind of do that for, you know, clout or personal gain. I don't know. I did get that vibe a little bit, but I tried to be supportive, and I try to support people who are supporting Sebastian, you know, like I said. So that was, you know, part of the me failing Sebastian was because I was, you know, far too involved in, you know, another community to kind of see like what was really happening. And I also am so new to YouTube that I'm not, you know, I'm just learning like how it all works, you know. And it's not pretty, but I've met so many good people, and I love the audience and the community that we have here. I'm very protective of our community here. If I smell somebody in here, like if I smell a rat, you're gone. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna wait around. And if you want to wrench because you want to write a tell-all book about Lady Freedom, please get to step in, because that's ridiculous. I am not a diva. I am a very down-to-earth person. I'm not up here for me. Hey, Mally Cat. Mike says, hey, Mike, good to see you. Cell tower will be the part of the answer. Extra devices used. My thought always, no big deal. His face and answers, though. He admitted it. Well, and yeah, I agree. He was very upset about the... even the thought of geofencing was really bothering him, Mike, in my opinion. And it causes me to wonder, especially when somebody gets really worked up and mad about something like that, because if you weren't in the area, why would you care? So it makes me wonder. I think, Mike, that they use burner phones, and also we're going to get into some other methods of communication that could have been used. I've been working on that behind the scenes as well. So it's just a lot to take in, and I wanted to make sure that I got over and watched Mob's video, because they were big mad about Mob's video, and I was like, oh, why are you guys so pissed? Like, what's going on over that? And so I had to go watch it. Plus, it was highly recommended by the chat. So, yeah, burner phones, most definitely, in my opinion, were used. Now, Sebastian having a burner phone, I'm not saying he couldn't have had one. I would never say that would be impossible until I know for sure. But I don't think Sebastian left on his own that night. There is no indication of that whatsoever. Even so much so that the police have no indication of that either. Like, they're saying there's no indication of that. Now, of course, do I take everything the police says as, gospel? Hell no, I can't. I wish I could. I wish I had that strong of a frame of reference. I wish I did. Because I wouldn't be trying to rack my brain every day. C-Star says, let's say that they did take Sebastian somewhere. How would they plan for him to eventually reappear? C-Star, this is where I get stuck. I'm so glad that you said that. I am in full agreement with you. My question exactly. Like, what's the end game? What's the end game, right? So they put Sebastian somewhere. He reappears when he's 18, because I've heard some speculation on that. What are they going to tell people? We put him in a school. He's our kid. There's nothing you can do about it. No, because they should have came clean about that in the beginning, right? When everybody's in a frenzy and we're all looking for Sebastian, and we're making videos on their lack of care. If it was me, I would have just come out and come clean and been like, you know what? We did put him in a school. I never should have done this. It would have been like Carly Russell or Sherry Papini. They would have gotten off easy with it, especially Katie. I'm sure she would have been able to schmooze, a judge or two. And, no harm, no foul. Sebastian's safe. I just don't know if that's true. I'm holding on to like a 5% hope. You know what I'm saying? I really am. Do I think that there's enough hatred between Katie and Seth for Katie to do something like that to Seth? I do. I mean, she's called him everything possible. And I don't know what to believe of Yeda, but I'll say she was pretty convincing when she talked about how Seth asked for Katie's hand in marriage. Now, if you're lying, Yeda, shame on you. But it's not shame on me because I believe her. I do believe that. Because that's the type of guy that I've seen Seth to be. Navy Shellback says, are you looking for Sebastian at Disneyland? He could be anywhere and everywhere. Boom. Well said, and I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think. And I can't say that I, would stop, life doesn't stop. I get it, but shit, if we want to get real with it, Chris was telling Katie that she has to put her big girl pants up. I mean, that was on Queen Bee in last May. He's like, well, we got to just put one foot in front of the other, keep going. What? Who says that? Because I'm sorry, when I look at Sebastian's face, I can't just say that. I put one foot in front of the other in trying to figure out what happened to him. I put one foot in front of the other when I have to sit there and listen to Chris Proudfoot and his crap and edit a video with him talking. That's what I'm putting on my big girl pants to deal with him. And that's all I need because he's, you know, we all know he's a little bitch. So, Mama Bear, I'll never get that hard, dark, expressionless look on Katie's face. And Chris is the same. Droopy, heavy eyelids on Nancy Grace. I think they both were on a handful of downers, just like when taking the polygraph. Yeah. And we read through the criteria for the TBI. I wanted to make sure I got it right. Sorry, guys. For the TBI, when they give the polygraph test, according to what I read, and I read it to everybody too on the live, basically they do the two main reasons they would perform a polygraph. One would be in a criminal investigation. The second would be if they are looking at new hires. So that's part of their hiring process. And then some of the things that they do to prepare people for this is make sure that they're not on any type of medications that are not known to the polygraphist, right? So that way they can, again, establish a baseline because, you know, when it comes to, sorry guys, I have to plug my mic in. When it comes to these tests, you know, they're looking for either, you know, a deceptive answer or a truthful answer, and then, you know, you're scored on that, you know, and yippee for you if you answer everything, you know, not deceptive. But there's certain questions that you could say, you know, one question was, you know, you were being truthful, and the next question you were being deceptive. I mean, we don't know that. And, you know, it's really not comforting at all to know that they only gave Katie 5 questions. I mean, if somebody asked me only 5 questions during my polygraph test, I might wonder if they're doing their job well enough. You know, because if somebody was, I've never had to take a polygraph, but I'm willing to say that if I was going to be hooked up to something like that, and then they only asked me 5 questions, I'd be like, wah, 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 right? Because I would be expecting it to be thorough. And I would be like, wow, I got my panties in a twist over nothing there. Carla says, Mike, you're probably right. My question is, who has he ever found? He is a PI and claims he found a bunch. His skills on his on here provide proof that he can't. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think he has shown his full scope of what he could actually do here. I'm not saying that Fish Stix doesn't have the credentials to help solve this case. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not like him. I'm not going to spread around that he didn't earn his PI license like he tried to tell everyone I didn't earn my real estate license. I'm not that way, Mike. But what I am going to say is that what he has done in Sebastian Rogers' case makes me absolutely sick. And instead of him coming after someone like me who only has 3,000 subscribers, maybe he should sink his teeth into the nitty gritty of this case and try to solve it. But see, he wasn't hired, in my opinion, to solve the case. He was hired to create a larger circus than already existed in the case. He's not here to help. He's here to hinder. And they're using someone who they paid 15 G's to in order to do that. This man has been paid to shit on Sebastian's case, in my opinion. Well, I'm going to tell you what, Mike, if you know Steve Fisher so well, then you let him know that what he's doing in Sebastian Rogers' case is deplorable. And he should be ashamed of himself. And I don't know why he sent you into my chat, but you better be respectful or my mods will boot you. Because I'm not caught up here. Hey, Robini. Yeah, everybody. And I will say, Sammy, and I've said it before, and again, I'm not like him. When it came to Riley Strain's case, he was thinking the same thing I was. He was actually using his skill set that he has, right? If Riley's bank card was found on the bank, it might be a safe bet that Riley ended up in the water. And the height of the river and the flow of the river would have put Riley where he was found later. And that's what happened. It's funny how he could use his skills and figure out Riley's case before Riley was found. But he can't do this with Sebastian's case, you know? Lisa B always says Crispy's mommy has gotten him out of trouble his whole life. Nothing has changed. Bad people do bad things, in my opinion. I agree. And especially when there's no accountability for it, right? It's not ever a good thing. Like, you think that you're doing your kid a favor, but you're not. You know, you have to hold them accountable. Hey, Vic, you do. And I agree with you. He's never been held accountable, ever, never. He's never been held accountable. And then his mom or somebody, I don't know, somebody was able to pay this guy to do this. In my opinion, like I said, Fish Sticks would rather go after Mob Crew, who's actually analyzing these videos and showing why he believes what he believes. But SF Investigates thinks he can slap up a video and everybody's supposed to take it as gold. What do we think about that, Mike? And be respectful or your ass is out of here. But I'll entertain you. Hey, Andrea. Yeah, and that's, guys, again, when we're dealing with math, like not arithmetic, I'm talking about the hardcore rug, right, that people, you know, like to cook up, right? There's a lot of disturbing, disgusting things that come along with that. And for there to be any type of affiliation with that leads me to believe that there could be further affiliations with things like SA, T-rings, all of that. And there's no one on earth that can convince me otherwise. I lived in the 417. I've watched it with my own two eyes. People become ate up with it, and all they think about is acting like rabbits. We'll just put it that way. Mama Davis says, I agree with the burner phone. Yeah, and I have proof of the burner phone too, Mama Davis. Thank you for being here. And I wouldn't bring it up if I didn't. I would just say, you know, this is alleged. So, well, Mike, I have to agree with you there. It was not fun watching for the cat. It wasn't, and I agree. But what exactly is SF trying to prove here? That Bobby's sons did something to Sebastian and brought him over to the construction zone? Because that doesn't make any sense to me at all. And, you know, he doesn't just get to slap something up there and not even give an explanation for it. And I'm talking about, like, one that makes a modicum of sense that I could even try to consider. Robini says, well, LE said in the first 48 hours, no evidence he ever left the home. So, well, and Robini, I should say this too. Chris Broadfoot said the same thing, right? He said to Smiley, there nothing on the exterior of the building was damaged or, you know, tampered with or anything, right? It wasn't like a window was open or a door was unlocked, anything like that. So if the whole entire house is locked, you know, that's the only conclusion that they can come to. Why they wouldn't then look at Katie is beyond me. That's the next logical step, right? So let's play it out again. And I'm sorry for people who, you know, have grown tired of this, but let's play it out again. You know, Sebastian and Katie come home from the Texas Roadhouse. They get there around 7 p.m. Sebastian takes the trash can to the end of the driveway. He comes back in. He plays in his room for a little while, and Katie let him stay up a little bit later that night until 9 p.m. He says goodnight to her and goodnight to his puppies, and he goes to bed. About an hour later, Katie hears a noise or a thud in Sebastian's bedroom, and she says to him, Bubba, did you fall out of the bed? And he says, no, ma'am. I'm laughing because I don't believe that shit. I do not believe it for 1 second. Hey, Bubba, did you fall out of the bed? No, ma'am. Bullshit. It's ridiculous. That never happened, Katie, because you added that crap in. Same with the trash, same with all of it. Either way, Katie says that she stayed on the phone with Chris until about midnight when she hangs up the phone with him and she goes to bed. Here's the problem. That's Katie's bedroom window light. This is the photograph that Steve Fisher provided, Mike. Right here. So why is Katie's light still on at 3:06 a.m. if she was asleep at midnight? Is she afraid of the dark? Did she have to get up and go to the bathroom? That is really shitty if they're hiding him till he's 18, Mama Davis. Like, who does that? And you know, and at this point, I don't think that they would keep him this long. They're not trying to get themselves into more trouble, right? At this point, that's all they would be doing. Do you know how much people would absolutely, hate their guts if we found out that they were hiding him this whole entire time? I don't think they would take the chance. Not with, the amount of hate and harassment they say that they've gotten. They wouldn't take that chance. Oh, that's interesting. Mama Bear says, look what Google just told me. Yes, a Navy veteran can lose VA benefits if it's found, or if it is found, or excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm having trouble reading tonight. If found guilty of child abuse, particularly if the abuse is deemed willful misconduct. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know why no one has gone to their superior officers. I really don't, Mama Bear. It's so strange. Results in a felony conviction leading to imprisonment. Yeah, because they don't take those things lightly, especially because they think of people who are military personnel as having a higher responsibility because of the training that they have. So that's a great point. Thanks, Mama Bear. It's unbelievable that they just overlook this stuff. Vic says, do they have like a teen military program? They said they know where he is and can't get him out. Yeah, I know what you're saying about LE saying that. Or that it's been alleged. Vic, and these schools are very, again, based on everything that I've researched on the schools, they're really, really tight-lipped, right? It's basically whoever puts them there and whoever has enough money to keep them there is where their loyalty lies, if that makes sense. So basically, if you have enough money to pay for this, somebody will come in the middle of the night, take your kid, and bring them to an undisclosed location and keep them, right? As long as you're paying them to. And obviously, these places have their own agendas as well, and they think that their methods are, the best. And yeah, no, exactly. Well, what man is worth that, right? Mama Davis says there's no man on earth that I would give up my children for. That's weak. But like, Chris isn't even like, I mean, I don't know. I know I know beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But he's not a George Clooney. He's not like that wealthy. He's not even that wealthy. I mean, he's not even like, I'm thinking of a reason why you would ever do that. And it's still like, Chris doesn't have a good personality. Chris isn't fun to be around. Chris isn't treat her like gold. Chris isn't her rock, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's like reasons why you might do that, I guess. But I can't find a single one that matches Chris, so no, I don't. I just think it goes back to Katie's insecurities and the way that she feels about herself, right? Because she allows for all of this. We've never. Here's how I know she allows for it. She's always laughed at it. She's always been up there supporting it, and she never told him to stop. Because, and Chris has been outed for many, many things that are like unsavory in a relationship, right? Like, no woman likes it unless you are a swinger, whatever, that you're, share partners or whatever. No woman wants that. No man wants that. Like, unless you're sick and you like that and you're twisted and that's what you want. Like, nobody wants that. Everybody wants somebody, especially as you get older, to just, be with and, exist with and have a happy life with. Like, but she's not even going to have that with Chris, right? Because Sebastian wasn't the problem. He is the problem. So again, it doesn't match up. It's got to be a low self-esteem for Katie to think that she can't do better and that Chris is the best thing ever and that she would choose him over Sebastian. It's got to be that. I mean, that's my thought process, at least. Sammy says, not that any of those theories can't be true, but it seems like a coordinated effort to get people to think he could still be alive. It's so hard. It's harder to have a no-body case. Yeah, and I mean, it is harder. It is. And for a while there, Sammy, I was thinking that maybe they would wait, right, until they did find Sebastian. We watched a clip last night. Even Seth had said, when we find Sebastian, then we'll know what happened to him because he can tell us. And I believe that to be true. No matter what condition that we find Sebastian in, he is going to be able to tell us what happened to him. He's just going to be able to, by science or by speaking to us. And by God, I hope and pray every day that it's by him speaking to us and telling us what happened to him. Oh, I'm sorry, Vic. Ask me what? I must have missed something up here. I think I might have missed it. Another motive check. Yeah, and I mean, I do again think it was a snowball effect. I do. I think it was a snowball effect. I think that we had 4 CPS reports within a 13-month, 14-month time period, right? That's number one. I think that, well, you know what? I think we could go even further than that. Let's just go even further than that. And let's say that when Chris and Katie started dating, it's been alleged that they were still involved with the other partners and just getting out of that, just getting fresh out of relationships with the people they were married to, allegedly, from what we've been told, right? So right there causes a lot of issues that wouldn't be there if, say, you took the time to properly heal from one relationship before going to the next relationship. That right there causes major issues, right? Number one, because Katie's still fighting between her and Seth. They're not in agreement. And then you have, you know, Chris Proudfoot and Nina still fighting, and they have a custody battle with Faith, right? Katie and Seth ended up working out their issues, and it was decided that Sebastian would, live with Katie, see Seth every other weekend. So they had their parenting plan set, and then there was this custody battle with Faith, right? So that's already adding more stress onto a relationship. Any of us that have been in long-term relationships realize that the longer you're in a relationship, the more things that could be added to it, right? You're going through things together, and you're continuously going through things together in life. Life doesn't stop. Nothing's going to be, oh, now we got over that hump, rainbows and sunshine. No, there's always something. You never know. One of my best friends met the love of his life, and now he's battling his granddaughter's cancer and going every weekend to see her. And, they're a great couple. They go do things together, run fair, different things together. And now they're in the fight of their life, and they never thought that would happen. Bad things happen in life. It's awful, and you never know when that could happen. You just never know. So again, going back to what's going on with Sebastian, at that time, he's 7 or 8 years old, right? And then he's got this, beautiful little Faith, comes in, and she's the step, sister and stepbrother. So they're a blended family, right? And then shortly after that, there is a horrific incident of SA with this slightly older child, right? I mean, let's see, 8 to 13, that's 5 years. A child who's 5 years older did horrible things in SA to Sebastian. Again, a blow to the relationship, big time, right? Do you think that Chris and Katie were pointing the finger at themselves at any point during that? Because from what we've seen of them, I'm sure they were pointing the finger at everybody but themselves, and probably also at each other. Because we don't know what they say to each other behind closed doors. And neither does really anybody on YouTube, in my opinion. Yeah, even adult children, you don't expect them to hit the road, Jack. No. Exactly, Robini. Yeah. And my daughter, I'm super proud of her. She's, gotten scholarships, put herself through school. She's an awesome kid. I still give her money. because I love her. And I'd never want her to struggle if she doesn't have to, especially if when I'm here, you know. But she works very, 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 very hard, you know. And so I feel like, you know, it's not the kid that's laying on the couch until noon. You know, she's not that person. She never has been. So I want to help her as much as I can. Mama Bear says, one interview, Chris says they're stuck between hopeless and helpless, and another interview right before or after optimism is at its highest. Yeah, he did say that, Mama Bear. He sure did. You know, I mean, and it's ridiculous. It's laughable. It is. It's like, what in the world? And, you know, he also said, whenever we were watching the Only Hands interview yesterday with Caitlin Miller, and she was like, you know, asking Katie how it feels. And well, she said, how does it feel as parents? And Katie answered, and then Chris goes, it's rough. And I'm like, it's rough. I mean, and you know, they had just talked to Holly Thompson, and he said, you know, we've been stuck between helpless and hopeless. And then Caitlin Miller asked them day 11. So what? 3 days later. It's rough. It's rough. You know, I haven't been arrested yet. Doing all right, I guess. I mean, come on. And we saw this confidence growing and growing and growing, you know, because of L.E.'s lack of doing anything about it. Andrea says, exactly, Robini. I've been single for 15 years and I'm just fine on my own. Yeah, Andrea, and that's like, you know, I mean, I don't think people should, you know, never find anybody. And I, you know, and if somebody's happy, that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think it's really important. Like the thing with Chris, like being married, you know, 5 times, and he's not old. He's a young guy, right? And it wasn't because like tragedy struck and his wife had passed or something like that. It was because, you know, Chris is someone who doesn't keep his eyes to himself and he doesn't keep his hands to himself, apparently. And, you know, he'll hit on anybody, you know, that comes along. And, you know, there's women like that, there's men like that. I'm definitely not saying that as just, you know, you know, a man that does that. I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but I do think that Chris falls into that category of a guy like that, you know, where it's like you could send him to the grocery store to pick up the kid's prescription and he's over there hitting on the pharmacist, you know, and you're like, really? Again, you know. And maybe Katie is at the point where she's like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like you do get to that point when you're dealing with that kind of stuff, right? Because you start putting walls up and you're like, why should I care if they're like that, you know, whatever. I'm spending his money. I'm the one, you know, with his credit card. You know, some women think like that. Just speculation, in my opinion, of course. Robini, I've been single since 2013 and I'm seeing someone since 2020, but not in a hurry to marry. Yeah, that's great, Robini. That's how I am. I don't think I'll ever get married again just because I'm, again, walls. And, you know, give me a reason to take out a couple of bricks. Let me peek through that son of a bitch before I even, you know, because, you know, especially when I think of, you know, Crystal McCrory Jones, her husband had full authority as next of kin to do whatever he wished, and her family and their wishes were not taken into consideration by this guy, because in my opinion, he took her life, you know, and then he disrespected her after. Big time. And that's not where I want to be when Jesus comes back. Nope. I do not want somebody to be able to disrespect me in life and disrespect my remains. No. I won't have it. And that's what happens when you get married. You get, you know, especially depending on where you're at and what kind of laws are in place. Navy says you don't need a lie detector test to see Chris, that Chris is lying. You just need to see that his lips are moving. I agree. And, you know, the thing is that Chris gets upset about having to be given a polygraph test, but I don't know why, because I would expect one. Like, if your child goes missing in your home, no one's going to like to take a polygraph. No one would probably volunteer to take one. I don't know. Seth said he did. But I'm just saying, like, most of the time, but I would be expecting one. And if I was the last one with my child, I would want one to make sure, like, people understood that I didn't do anything. You know, would it be easy? Hell no. And you best believe I'd go to a reputable person like Nancy Grace and I'd be like, please, by all means, get the best person, because I want to shut these trolls down and I want them to stop talking their crap about it. Not for a man who's already going on dates with other women. Hot mess in that house. Well, and the thing is like, I think maybe they might have been dating other people, from my understanding. Like, maybe they were maybe it was more of an open thing where it was like, yeah, sure, like, things are bad right now, and maybe they were separated, but still, I mean, they weren't really living together. So that's another thing to consider. But Chris's odd behavior after the fact, you know, is weird, right? Because a tragedy can bring people together and it can tear them apart. It really can. And I get that. And I can't say exactly, like I said, like definitively, I don't know. I just can't say definitively anything in this case. I don't feel comfortable doing that, except for that Sebastian did not walk out of the house. Sebastian could not have vanished. Those are the ones that I feel comfortable saying. But, you know, I know that it's alleged that they were together at the very least. Well, whenever Faith came for Christmas, wasn't it said that Sebastian stayed with Seth while Faith was there the last Christmas? And correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, there was a fire near you, Ann Reynolds? Mama Bear says, Nat SF accused Bobby's son of that because she's the only one that refused him to look at her Ring camera footage. Oh, really? Oh, snap. Plus, told the truth how he treated her and her son and his girlfriend. That's crystal clear retaliation. Damn. Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense, Mama Bear, because I was like, I mean, I get that he's trying to pin it on anybody but his clients, but I also was wondering what was the vendetta with Bobby, because, like, you got to really not like somebody. Because, like, I know why SF comes after me. It's because of the photo that I enhanced. It's because of the photo. And he absolutely does not like me. Right? Like, it absolutely bugs him really, really bad that a little tiny creator with my $13.99 a year subscription to software busted out his clients. Sad. I will, Lisa B. I'm working on something for tomorrow night. Yes, because I wanted to give Voices of Truth my undivided attention, and but I have something special for the burner phones and some of the theories that I have about them. You know, some of the proof that I have to back up the burner phones, and we're going to go over it tomorrow night because it's a lot to get through. Some of the things that I've been kind of going back on, and I know that there was a lot of speculation in the very beginning about all of that. I think it was premeditated, Sammy. I do, because the problems existed in California, you know, and then they continued, right? Like, things didn't get better. Hey, Hindsight, good to see you. Things didn't get better. They just kept getting worse and worse and worse, right? It was like, okay, then they're isolated in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and I'm sure that didn't help matters at all in terms of Sebastian's happiness, Katie's happiness. Let's be honest. The first thing that Chris did was get rid of Sebastian's cats. And, you know, we were talking about, okay, why would a mom, you know, leave her kid, you know, for money, for lust, for love, whatever. But, you know, she probably felt very isolated, much like how Nina felt. And I'm not defending Katie, but if we're to believe that Nina felt that way, then I'm willing to bet that she felt that way too, right? Because you're under Mama Sox's thumb, you know, you have to go along with all of this stuff that, you know, you may not have ever done before, you know. Most of us have never taken our phones out and recorded our current boyfriend, husband's ex laughing at her crying and, you know, having a baby tossed at her. Like, that's not normal. And it wasn't Katie sitting there reluctantly recording. According to Nina, she was right there in the mix, you know, having a good time, humiliating and hurting Katie. And let's just be honest. Hey, Town Chat Cafe, we have seen this throughout the Sebastian Rogers case. If you don't fall in line, then you will be humiliated and you will be discredited and people will say horrible, horrible things. And I mean, yeah, everybody's going to get rumors if you're in the public space, right? If people know about you or of you, they're going to have an opinion. They're going to have all of that, right? If you put yourself out there. In Chris and Katie's case, if you have a missing child, people are going to look at you. If you were the last one with the child, they're going to look at you. Seth, being the biological father of Sebastian Rogers, his father, we're going to look at him, right? We're going to look to him to see what he's doing for updates, passing out flyers. Same thing with Katie. But we know that just pisses them off every time we ask about that. It's made them more and more angry, in my opinion. And there's no really good reason for it other than guilty knowledge, not wanting to actually find Sebastian because, as we know, when we find him, he's going to tell us what happened to him. And that's the last thing they want, in my opinion, is for us to know what happened, you know? So we have Katie and Chris moving in, I think it was to White House. And I think for a little while they may have lived in one of Chris's mom's house or near. I'm a little bit hazy on that. But then we start having CPS reports, right? In the 13 to 14 months before Sebastian went missing, there was 4 CPS reports. The 5th one came when he was missing. They slapped another one on, right? Also, Sebastian was going to see a therapist who he was telling once a week how he felt and what was going on in the home, right? And those are conversations that Seth has notes on, as far as I know, or to my knowledge. So, yeah, bullying big time for Bobby. Bobby's being bullied, in my opinion. Her children are being ridiculed for helping. It's very sad. You know, it's really sad. So right after that sounds about right. Lisa B says after they moved to the Stafford Court home, CPS reports started allegedly. Yeah, that sounds about the right time frame, in my opinion as well. And with that, I believe there were a couple of elements present. One, abuse on Sebastian, the other, DV. And I say that because of what was alleged on Mr. and Mrs. E's Crimecast by Tony Mathis. And he did say that they were getting onto Katie because she was allowing Chris to be an asshole in the house. I mean, you know, for lack of a better way to just sit here and list all these things off that we already know and have heard from Chris, right? Hitting Sebastian with the belt, making him bag up his own toys and take them to the street to be thrown out. And then they lied about many, many things, in my opinion, when it came to how many times Sebastian was actually struck by his stepfather. And let's not forget, they allowed Sebastian around Francis. Sorry, I pulled the wrong one up there. But let him around Francis. Where is the one that I pulled up earlier? Sorry, guys. I just really made this look weird back here. Because I have the one from Sebastian's school picture where you can clearly see marks on Sebastian. And I showed the other one earlier that they put out that they covered up. And there's no reason to do that. It's also some place where Sebastian couldn't have possibly hurt himself, in my opinion. He couldn't have fallen and hit the back of his neck right there where it looks like somebody took and squeezed him. It's sick. And let's not forget Aunt Melissa. Now, that's not just physical, but that's psychological, mental, emotional. And Katie was right there and did nothing. Because at least it wasn't happening to you, right, Katie? Yeah, it's this one that I pulled up earlier. And if you zoom in, Sebastian has a mark here. And Sebastian also has a mark under his eye right here. Like he had a shiner. And that was Sebastian's picture that the school even still has up. I know our friend Freebird isn't in here anymore, but I'll never forget her telling me that she looks at Sebastian's picture up there and she says that his eyes look very haunted. And I'll never forget that. I will never, ever forget that, because that is the perfect description of someone who looks like they had a morning with a narcissist. And look at Katie with her butt out. Blech. And this is when Sebastian was receiving his FFA award, Future Farmers of America award. Seth was there to accept it, but Chris and Katie were here shopping for motorcycles. Hey, Don Oswald, good to see you. I feel like Seth, being Sebastian's father, he should have the right to any records involving Sebastian. I agree, Don. And, you know, he did get a lawyer. He retained a lawyer in order to get the CPS documents, because that's the only way that you're able to get them, you know, is for one of the parents to get those. And he did. And, you know, I, again, don't know why Katie can't just have some kind of courtesy, even if you don't have any care. What about courtesy to just, you know, let Seth know, hey, I, you know, do have an audio from when we pulled into the, you know, garage that night. We did make it home from Texas Roadhouse, but she doesn't care. She's overly confident that they got away with it, in my opinion. And it's frustrating. Good night, Ann. Thank you for being here. Yeah, absolutely. Hindsight says, thank you for continuing to focus on Sebastian, lady. Your dedication is so greatly appreciated. Thank you, Hindsight. And I feel the same way about you guys. You guys did a great bunch of research. I mean, really, really top notch. And, you know, we all just need to keep on focusing on the smaller details now. You know, every little thing that comes out, you know, even down to the cats, you know, because I mean, if we're expected to believe it, we got to kind of, you know, look at it and then have a reason, you know. I mean, I just think it's so odd. I don't know. I just find it really, really odd that they want us to look at this video. And I think it's like 10:17 p.m., February 25th, 2024, right? And Katie added in to the Smiley Stories interview back in March. So they must have seen this footage and added it in after the fact, that they think that Sebastian, I'm trying to think too, when they added the flashlight detail, I think that it might have been on Duchess for the Missing on March 17th. But they also added that detail in too. Lisa B always says, Lady Freedom, I remember a woman coming out and saying she saw CP with Sebastian in a chokehold outside the home of the poker party, allegedly, in my opinion. Wow. Oh my goodness, Lisa B. And you know, how awful. Wasn't it? See, in this one here, I don't know if you guys can see it because I don't. Okay, there. Yeah, there we go. So right here, there's a shadow, but on Sebastian's neck, you could absolutely see marks, like somebody grabbed him around his neck. But there's a shadow, and I don't know why they did that, but it really ticks me off. But I could probably even bring in a better one that I have saved in my phone. I mean, this is right here on, you know, the website. for the FBI website. And let's not forget the poker party was supposed to be Friday night, right? And then Sebastian's got that mark on his neck. Saturday at Costco is when that Optimism shirt was allegedly taken. There's been some speculation both ways on that too, whether that's a younger picture of Sebastian or if it was in fact from Costco the day before. But either way, he still has, marks on his neck that are conducive with someone that's been grabbed by the neck, right? Or someone has applied pressure to this area and this area of the neck. The only way that could happen is through a C clamp. I think that's what Joe Scott Morgan calls it, is the C, because you could do two hands or one, right? Robini says, in my opinion, you can't stop abusing your kids long enough to get school pictures. Same with Jack and Lily's case. Amen, Robini. I watched right away for any type of bruising on their face, right? Because these people are really bold nowadays. I mean, they just like crack a kid right in the face. It's weird. Because look at poor Sebastian. But I noticed right away that Jack had what appeared to be a cigarette where somebody put out a cigarette on his face, or some sort of a round mark on his face in his school pictures. Noticed, just right away. And the reason why I notice those things now is because of Sebastian, because of poor Sebastian, because I want to say I either recognized his mouth or I recognized the shiner. I don't remember which one I recognized first, but I pointed it out, and someone said, "Look, Lady Freedom, by his eye," and I'm like, "Oh my God," And so now I'm always like looking these kids over because they're so blatant. They do it in their face, Hey, Bo, good to see you. Sometimes it's like the teachers and stuff would notice on these kids when they're changing out for gym class. But now it's like they just put it right on their face like it's nothing. Like, oh, well, nobody's going to do nothing. Especially poor Sebastian had to report stuff 4 times, or someone else reported some of it. But according to Chris, Sebastian went to school and he showed his teacher. Hindsight says, until we hear that audio, it doesn't exist, in my opinion. I agree, Hindsight. I agree. And I would feel that way if I was Seth too. I would be like, what audio, right? Because why? There's no reason to believe that nonsense, especially because they put out so much other stuff like these videos, of the cat, this little boy looking for the cat, it's always, look over here, not over there. You know what I mean? And that's what's really, it's not only frustrating, it's insulting to our intelligence, but it's also, kind of par for the course when we think about people who participate in criminal activities on the regular. They think they're smarter than the average bear, but they're really not. And that comes with narcissism as well, in my opinion. Hey, Brenda Brown. That's why, Chris will always try to use those big words, but he always mispronounces them because he's not of the intelligence level that he thinks he is. And, that's fine. We all have different skill sets, and that's why I hate calling people stupid, because we can all bring something to the table. I do believe that. But some of these theories that I've heard out there have been really silly when it comes to this, and maybe that's a better word to use, is silly, because again, there may be something that, someone knows better than me, and they might think, well, that person's stupid because they don't know how to, change oil on a car. you're not going to catch my ass doing that ever. That's not my thing. And so it's like, is that person smarter than me about changing oil? Hell yeah, they are. Am I smarter than them about something else? Sure. We all have something to bring to the table, but it's just silly when you hear people going, well, I think Sebastian walked out. No, honey, he couldn't have walked out. And the reason why I'm saying this is because none of the doors or windows were tampered with, unlocked, left open. Everything was locked. Number 2, Sebastian was not caught on any type of surveillance from the neighborhood. Nothing. But you want to know what was caught on camera in the neighborhood on surveillance? Not a cat. Wait for it. It was the car at 2:58 a.m. A silver sedan. A silver sedan was in the neighborhood at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you know what? Who else was up at 3 o'clock in the morning? It looks like Katie might have been up at 3 o'clock in the morning because that's her bedroom light. Still on at 3:06 in the morning. Okay? Now, I didn't make these pictures up. Just like I didn't make this picture up. Okay? I'm sorry that it offends some people out there. But this is a still shot from the flashlight video the night that Sebastian, well, they want us to believe that he just vanished. But again, impossible. Because none of us vanish. As a matter of fact, even when we're not here anymore, we still remain. So you can't get me to believe that a cat in the neighborhood is relevant at 10 o'clock at night when Sebastian was supposedly just told his mother around 15 minutes before that, no ma'am. Because remember, she said, Bubba, did you fall out of the bed? And Sebastian said, no ma'am. Okay, you can't have it both ways, Katie. Either you were sleeping at 3, or either you went to sleep at midnight, or you didn't. And it looks to me like you didn't. You maybe should have said you fell asleep on the couch and you don't know what time that you went to bed, because this looks really bad. You may have even said that maybe like a window was left open. But again, there's no perfect crime, and you're silly to think that you're going to get away with it. Very silly, in my opinion. I agree, Vic. I agree. They did not treat Sebastian nice. Sebastian told his father that they weren't treating him nice. As a parent, that had to be so heartbreaking to know that your ex, who helped you make a life, is a willing participant or even allowing for your child to feel uncomfortable in the home that they live in. And then you get up on panels and you laugh at Sebastian. It's crazy to me. Sammy G says there was a recording of someone reading like 2 sentences allegedly from CP's docs that were stolen from Seth. They alleged allegations of, C-clamp, which I explained earlier, guys. So we just got to use our imagination. Thanks, Sammy, for putting the stars in chat. Make complete sense to me. Yeah, it does to me too. It does to me too. because that's how far abusers will go. If you think that you have it under control with somebody who puts hands on you, I'm sorry to tell you, it's never going to get better. It just never is. And if it does, hallelujah. But I think a safer bet would be to leave the situation. Hey, Rosebud, good to see you. Hindsight says, Lisa B, always the audio, in my opinion, is not what some may feel it is. It has been around since March of 2024. It was sent to multiple creators on YouTube, allegedly, in my opinion, and research. Yeah, well, and here's another thing, Hindsight. There's people that will go into people's chats on YouTube, and a few have come into here as well. And I have also been sent different messages and things and emails. So they'll tell you, like a little tidbit of information, but they are going from creator to creator, spreading it around to see who is going to run with it. And they don't bank on us doing our own research, in my opinion. They think, okay, well, if I send them this like really juicy detail, like I'll give you a really good example. I'm so glad that you brought this up, because this is a great example of what I went through. Well, first of all, there was this guy that called into Dolly, right? And he had said to him, like, I was at Walmart and I saw Sebastian. And, then he started talking about like Jeffrey Dahmer and like all this weird stuff. And then I'm like, oh, this guy's just like trolling. And obviously, creator that has as many people as Dolly does, he obviously knew that too. But that same guy, not knowing that I was in that chat, because I was just listening that day, I wasn't participating in anything, I was just listening, and he messages me and he's like, nobody will believe me about this, but I saw Sebastian at Walmart, and I know that you're going to believe me and stuff like that, and blah, blah, blah. And they play on your heartstrings. And some of them truly, truly believe what they're saying too. Don't get me wrong. Not everybody's vindictive and has ill intentions. I'm not trying to say that either, but I do find it, odd that you bring that up, because another instance that this happened to me was not too long ago. Now that instance was back around April or May of last year, I think, where they contacted me. I don't remember like when they were on Dolly's show, or called into his, because I don't do call-ins here. I'm not that ambitious. But nevertheless, I did experience that again with a person who was allegedly in Justin's chat. And in his chat, they were saying that they met Chris Proudfoot on Bumble. And so when this person came over here, a lot of people recognized that same person from Justin's chat, which I didn't happen to be in that chat that day. So I didn't know about this, but people were kind of flagging the person's comments, and some people were texting me and being like, hey, there's this person in chat, and explained it to me, and I was like, hey, and I started asking questions. Well, this person didn't want to answer the questions in a way that made it believable to me, and I really was very hesitant. And then one of my mods and I were going over screen grabs from what was said in Justin's and screen grabs from what was said in my chat, and they did not match up. And I was like, oh, thank God, I didn't run with that, because again, I like Chris? No. Do I think that he's a man whore? Yeah. I mean, do I think that he is someone who looks at women and as objects? Yes, absolutely. But does that make him someone who does, let me rephrase that. Does it make it okay to lie on him just because he's done something in the past? does that make it okay now to blame this on him when he didn't do it? Absolutely not. And I'm not going to run with a rumor, even if I don't like the person. I think you have to be really, really cautious. And I'm so glad that you're like that too, Hindsight. That's why I enjoy the content that comes from your channel, the content that comes from Voices of Truth. It's just, I have a good feeling knowing that you're not just going to take something and run with it. So when I look at something that you've done, it's much easier for me to come to a deeper understanding and conclusion of things, because I know that you've done due diligence, and then I'm trying to do mine too. So I appreciate that. And I think it's very easy for people to, jump in and be like, hey, this person said this or this person said that. It's easy to do that. It's harder to say, okay, so what you're saying is this. Okay, I understand. All right, let me go back and check it, for myself. So Hindsight says, if only we can remove the rumors, fictional aspects within this case, maybe we can find truth together. I agree with that. That is so well said. That is so well said, Hindsight. The truth really, really matters. It matters because it doesn't have to be what we want it to be, but it is what it is, and it would help us find answers. It would help us find the right answers, not the wrong ones, and then spin our wheels on the wrong answers. Because that's what's really frustrating in this case, in my opinion, is us spinning our wheels, and we see this, and then this person puts this out, and we think, oh gosh, what is this now? And then, okay, look at this, and it muddies the waters. Lisa B always says Sebastian's shoes were left behind. Do you realize how many cases are solved because shoes get forgotten? Ooh, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, Lisa, that is a great point. It's always something, it's something small that was forgotten. And I think the shoes are big for something that is small that was forgotten in this case. I also think that the flashlight was an afterthought. I do. I think the flashlight was an afterthought. I don't know that they were banking on anyone being able to decipher the footage, the one that they don't want us to look at, because they want us to look at, this is the thing that gets me. They want us to look at every bit of footage from that night from the neighborhood, except for the 3 a.m. lights footage. Everything else is legit, just not that. Are you kidding me? Please. Dawn, I did hear about Katie's watch showing that her heart rate was elevated around 3 a.m. But I don't know how to confirm it. And that's why I haven't really placed so much emphasis on it, is because I just don't know, Yeah, Brenda, I know what the picture is too. And they wouldn't be so upset about it if it was nothing. They would say, oh, that little creator with 3,000 subs, she's really cute. I hope she, got her crayons out this morning. You know what I mean? Oh, isn't that cute? I mean, that's what you do when it's not a big deal. It's weird that they're bothered so by it, Thank you, Hindsight. And I'm sorry, guys, I got a little bit behind in the chat, but yeah, absolutely. Hindsight says, I recommend everyone doing your own research before you accept anything. If you don't know how to research the details, find someone you entrust to help you, and don't agree just because others do. I agree with that too, Hindsight. It's very difficult to stand our ground in this case, right? It really is, because we all have, different reasons. And here's the deal. A lot of us are equally as passionate, even if we're on the other side of the aisle. I don't think that everybody on the other side of the aisle is, wretched humans that don't give a crap. I mean, some of them are, if I'm being honest, if I'm being brutally honest, yes. But if I'm also being brutally honest, I can safely say that and say, you know, there are just some people that really believe in what they're doing as well. Unfortunately, I don't believe in that, but it is important for us all to stand up for what we believe in and what our research has told us, especially if we put that much into it. Now, where I get stuck too is when people want to come up and say, well, you don't know what you're talking about, but they don't want to give me a reason. Well, how do I not know what I'm talking about? Please elaborate. Please tell me what I don't know. But they never do. Or I'll say, hey, if what I just said is upsetting, send me an email if you have proof of otherwise. But you don't get that email. That email never comes because the person is just clearly going off of what they think and believe instead of having something to back it up with. And having something to back it up with is everything, especially on YouTube, because we're all like sitting here going, show me the receipts, you know? And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with saying, show me the receipts, or, hey, can you prove that, right? Prove me wrong. Most of the time, that's the fastest way to shut up a troll too, if I'm being honest. Because they feel like, oh, I don't have anything really to back that up with, and then they're not going to say anything back to you. You know, they'll leave it, which thank God, because it can get exhausting. Arguing back and forth with someone who doesn't know what they're talking about is worse than arguing back and forth with somebody who does, because, you know, at least you're like, wow, that was a good point, at least, you know. But I mean, if they really don't know what the heck they're talking about, it could just be like very frustrating for both people, because they don't understand that they've got it wrong, even, you know. Oh, I'm praying for you, Mama Bear, and your family and your son. I'm sorry. I just saw that for Vic. I'm sorry if I got a little behind in chat, guys. I've been just jabbering away. Hindsight, thank you. No, you guys do such a great job of that. And that's the thing. Like, you know, I don't ever have to ask you guys for receipts, because you know that to bring them right to the table. And that's what's important. And I try really hard to do that too, because but see, even so, people are going to take it how they're going to. And I have to remember that as well. I always have to consider and remember that. Sammy G says, yes, the fingerprint stuff he said was bullshit. Cases are not like CSI in terms of DNA. It was, talking out of his behind. I'm with you. Yeah, and you know, Sammy, that's funny. I agree. And I think that it's important to kind of understand how the processes work in terms of evidence processing, and what the protocol is. But the hard part in this case is that we've seen a lack of following protocol, just like we've witnessed in my opinion, in Crystal McCrory Jones's case. Good night, Mama Bear. Thank you so much for being here, girl. I really appreciate you. Thank you. And we'll keep your son, and I'll go back and look in chat later tonight, so I know what's going on. I'm sorry I missed that, girl. Yeah, well, and I agree. I'm not either, you know. I'm just I'm just a YouTuber. I'm just a regular old YouTuber. But it definitely looks like teeth, or possibly nails even. With the boxy shape, it doesn't match up with the Morkies. It doesn't. And you know, I was getting quite excited while I was watching Christopher Mob, because I was thinking that maybe the animal that they see come out into the yard at around 5 o'clock, I think it was around 5 o'clock, was Katie letting the Morkies out. So my guess wasn't a cat first. Was it the Morkies? You know, like, did she let them out on accident early and not realize, you know, that she was supposed to be asleep? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Lisa B always says the psychology behind the proud foot triggers is amazing. Yeah. And I mean, it's just his voice now is just so tough to listen to. It really is. Oh, hey, little Miss Sharon, welcome back. Excuse me, Tina Girl says, I can't see how they believe the lies CP and KP put out and Sebastian didn't run away or vanish into thin air. Yeah, that's my biggest issue, Tina Girl. Like, please, come with something different, right? Like, it's those are the two things that I can feel so confident saying. Like, no, Sebastian didn't walk off on his own, and no, he didn't vanish. Those are the two big things that I'm comfortable with. I can't even say that I can, feel comfortable with him making it home from the Texas Roadhouse, Brenda, good to see you. Stacy, praying for Sebastian's safe return. Thank you, Stacy Michelle. That's really sweet of you. I appreciate you. Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't even want to speculate too far into Sebastian not being with us anymore, because let's be honest, when I first looked at the photo, right, I thought maybe Sebastian's arm was around the person's shoulder, right? If I'm thinking that it's somebody carrying Sebastian out, I was thinking that he was still helping, right? That he was maybe sedated or something like that. But I never wanted to say, oh my gosh, that, he's not with us anymore, because you can't see in the photo. You can't tell that from the photo. That is one thing that you cannot decipher. So, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other sources out there. Aw, thank you, Brenda. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I couldn't have a great chat and show like this if it wasn't for you guys. Robini says, if someone tells me something I didn't know, I just say thank you. Yeah, Robini, imagine that. That's such a kind approach to have, I was frustrated earlier when we were listening to Chris and, how he treats the people, and I said, oh gosh, if he had called me acting like that, I'd probably hang up, or I would have said something to make him hang up. And then I go, that would have just been a very, counterproductive situation. So, but there are some people out there that are so good at that, like Chris McDonough. He's like a type of person where he's like, yeah, I'll talk to him, and I'm like, no, he's not allowed. He was banned. He was banned. But that's so cool when you have somebody that is willing to talk to somebody like that, right? Because Chris goes into it with a confidence, right? He knows that he's going to ask questions and that he's going to be able to get the answers. And I think that's why Chris Proudfoot has never, ever, and wouldn't ever dare speak with Chris McDonough, because he would meet his absolute match. And Chris is someone that knows how to stay completely calm and kind and extract information from even people who are being extra cautious and know that they're being interrogated, in my opinion. And he really has a knack for it. And he also knows what to look out for in terms of someone who is being deceptive and someone who's telling him the truth, right? Like, for example, Hunter's interview at on the porch with his mother and grandmother. Boy, I don't think that Chris McDonough believed Hunter at all, but he was still like, okay, yeah, bro, yeah, I gotcha. All right, that's cool, okay, yeah, right on. And then what happened, and then he might offer up a little bit of information to see if the person takes the bait, and when they do that, he knows that he's being bullshitted, right? Like when he tells Hunter, so did you go and or excuse me, he asked Hunter, was Summer laughing when she was when she came up from the water? And he goes, yeah, she was laughing, and Chris goes, okay, like he's like, okay, now you're bullshitting me. And he knew. So, I mean, he has those tools and those, tactics already and strategies. So he's confident. I'd love to see him go asking Chris Proudfoot, what's up? And hindsight says we will never intentionally go against another creative's determination. However, if we disagree, we have to share that respectively. Yeah, respectably. Yeah, exactly. With integrity for truth to find this child. Yeah, because, again, hindsight, I agree with that. We can't worry about each other's feelings when it comes to Sebastian and what he needs, right? It's putting his interests ahead of our own. And I think that is especially difficult when people are so passionate, but also when they grasp onto an idea and they don't keep an open mind. I always try to be open-minded with this case, even though, as you said, I have my own kind of theories and ideas, and I would never, like, especially someone who's really trying to get to the bottom of things, say, oh, you're so wrong, what's wrong, what a jerk, what an idiot. No, I don't think so. I don't think that at all. I'm respectful, and I do respect everything people are doing to try to find Sebastian. But I'm the same way. If I don't believe something to be true, I'm gonna figure out whether it is or not, and then I can't hold it back, because, like you said, it's about finding Sebastian. So wherever the truth may lead us, right, is kind of where I'm going. And I will be completely honest, like Grandfather Mountain Photo, until today, I had some renewed interest in it, right? Because at first I was thinking, oh, wow, this looks like Sebastian, right? Seth was saying, yeah, I think it might be my son, right? But he was right on it. And then now with your research, it's brought a different light to what I thought. And that can only happen if we keep an open mind, oh, your puppy's going for surgery, Lisa B. I will say prayers for them. Oh, okay. Well, you get to sleep. I won't be on much longer, but thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everything. And thank you for being a great mod. um, I know my thoughts have been, I'm wondering about the nails. Yeah. Yeah. Because even when I was trying to make those nails, and I know mine are like a little bit more, a little bit more, you know, pointy, but if I didn't have my nails on, I told you guys I bite my nails. So like, that's how I know that Sebastian was nervous at the Texas Roadhouse, because I bite my nails too. But if I wear the fake ones, I won't bite them. And so because man, I would really get to going. And because and it's a nervous habit. I've had it since I was a child. So with that being said, your nails are going to be more like a square shaped. I mean, not completely. Sometimes it could be rounded, but I think that the digging in would look much like this, and so would teeth. I mean, that's another thing that I'm just not 100% convinced, But I think it's important to recognize that Mr. Proudfoot had these marks on him, and it's appropriate to, try to research what are they and where they come from, who did they come from? Oh, Brenda Brown, thank you so much for your super sticker. That's so sweet of you. Thank you. Oh, wow. I was wondering. Aw, thank you. Thank you so much, Little Miss Sharon, too, for your super sticker. That's awesome. You guys are amazing. I'm telling you, every little bit helps right now, because I'm shopping for that laptop next month. It's going to happen. I don't care what I have to do. I've talked to Kiki. She says that the good Walmart ones are okay. I'm gonna bite the bullet. But and I was also thinking I could even just buy like a decent reasonable one now, and then free up some storage, because that's another thing with these videos. And, when we're looking at them, every time that we send them or present them, or anything like that, it's altering the integrity of the photos, of the stills, of the video. So it's difficult. And I'm working with someone who I'm doing that kind of, uh, enhancement, or I'm cropping it in, I'm doing this video. And it's just, I want to make sure that when I send this video back to this person, it's going to be in the highest quality I can have it in. And then my phone's like, oh no, you don't have enough storage to do that. And I'm like, oh crap. So at least I could do that, like with all my pictures and, but we'll also be able to go over interviews, and I'll be able to pause, whatever. I mean, or if you guys say, hey, Lady Freedom, there's this particular, video that I would like to see, and I can pull it up, we can pause and watch. And I like to do those reviews with you guys. So I think that'd be great. Also, I don't know if you guys realize like how much it takes if you don't have a laptop. So I have to do like a lot of editing, and then also uploading my videos to StreamYard to present. And so there's a lot of preparation involved, and hence the reason why today I didn't get a chance to get everything, loaded in. But there was a lot to talk about just with the mob crew and the cat and that sort of thing. So, show poodles, so well said. The truth has no agenda. It just sits there, out there somewhere, waiting to just be discovered. And I really believe that. I really believe that, because, again, the truth is what it is, separately from us as humans, right? Because we all have our different perception, a different perspective. Some of us may share certain aspects of that perception or perspective, but our perspective is our own, right? And we're entitled to that, just like our opinion, just like I have 2 eyes that God gave me, I have 2 ears that he gave me, and I have a brain to help me figure it all out. And we all possess that. We're all should use that, separately but collectively to help. But absolutely, the truth has no agenda, and that's why it's separate from us as humans, right? Because we're flawed individuals, all of us. Not one of us is perfect. Believe me, I've tried. No, I'm just kidding. Pamela Roberts, good to see you. But yeah, that's why it's so important. Hey, Tori. That's why it's so important to, good night, Kathy Bartholomew. Thank you for being here. To consider everything, right? Because again, it's just like we're gonna do a fun members only, by golly, and we might even since I'm gonna do members only, maybe we'll do something fun like that next week sometime, and I won't even do a members. I'll just do it regular, and we can take a look at perspective, right? And see how it comes into play. I think that would be fun. I think it would take a little bit of stress off of us, but I think it would also be amazing to see kind of what our results are. I love doing experiments. I'm horrible at math, but I love science. I love doing things like that and I love like looking at human nature, psychology. Those are the things that I'm very interested in. But I think that would be fun to do with all of you, and just to kind of prove to ourselves that like we're all going to see different details in a certain situation, and it's not, it doesn't come from a place of malice. It comes from a place of how we process things as individuals. So to get upset with each other and nasty, I don't understand that, because again, in the real world, some of these people could be my best friend, you know, not the vile, yucky ones that, you know, rude, not the gremlins. I'm not talking about gremlins. I'm talking about regular people who just have a difference of opinion than me about Sebastian's case. We could totally have the same taste in music and the same taste in art and the same taste. You guys might like vitamin water too. Hell, I don't know. I mean, but it's just weird that there's such a divide. And again, I'm going to speak more about this as I do my own research more and more and figure this out, because I think I know who the root cause is. And notice I didn't say what, I said who. Hindsight says the community here is always respectful, insightful, and a joy to be a part of. Thank you. Hindsight, that's the same with your community too. Well, and you know, our community, because you guys are just amazing. You guys are awesome. I always look forward to talking to all of you guys. You know, I'll be like, oh, I hope, you know, so and so is here today, and I hope I see this person, because again, all of us bring something great to the table, right? Like some of you guys are nurses, and you'll say, you know, hey, Lady Freedom, I'm a nurse, and this is my experience. Or some of you are parents of children or individuals who are on the spectrum, and you can say, you know, Lady Freedom, this was my experience with this. I love that. I think that is so valuable, right? Because we all have different experiences, and we all have something different to bring to the table, you know. Robini says different opinions can help us see things the way we need to solve something. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there has been so many times that I've gotten up here. I can't even say how many times that I've gotten up here and I'm like, okay, this is how the show's going to go. And not really that I have an agenda, but I try to keep like a, you know, just like some sort of a flow. I want it to kind of, you know, make sense to you guys, you know, come across with a narrative kind of thing. But I'm always open to know, because there's been so many times when I come up here and I'm thinking one thing and you guys just like, it's so hilarious to me. I'm like, well, I thought I knew. I thought I had this planned out, you know, but it's okay. That's what I want. You know, I don't want you guys to say, yeah, Lady Freedom. Yeah. You know, I want you guys to tell me how you feel. And I even don't mind that from people, as long as they're like, you know, I don't agree with you because, like, again, I don't know where that other person Mike is. Shout out to Mike. I read your comments. You weren't being rude. I appreciate you. But again, you didn't give me any reason why you're coming in here asking what's going on, right? Steve's your friend. I get it. That's cool. I'm glad you guys are homies. But at the end of the day, that doesn't help us find Sebastian either. You know, you didn't come in here and tell me any like aha moments. Like there was no light bulbs. And that's where it's just like, are you distracting for the conversation, or do you really have something important to share? And if you do have something important to share, by all means, share it. But don't just come in and be like, well, I'm friends with this person. Well, that's great. I mean, you know, I believe it or not, I have a lot of friends that we don't agree on things, you know, and we just love each other, and we, you know, it's unconditional. I can't tell you how many times, and I bet you would love to tell the stories, you know, or I'd have to tell my friend Billy, I'd be like, why are you always right? You know, and I'd get mad at him. I'm like, stop being right all the time. You know, quit giving me such good advice. I'm not listening to you anymore, you know, but like, it would be like annoying. I'm like, why? Okay. So you really think that? So I'm going to ask you for advice, and you're really going to tell me that? And then he'd be right. And I'm like, damn it, you know, and you know, but I mean, there'd be times where we would debate on all kinds of things like that, you know? I'd be like, how can you think that? I mean, you know, but when you care for somebody and you love somebody and they disagree with you, it's not the end of the friggin' world. It just means that you guys don't see eye to eye on one thing. I mean, it's gotten really out of control. It's gotten really out of control. So, but I'm just so glad to have you guys and your smart opinions. And I know that you guys too, like I can't see everything that goes on. I mean, I wish I could. I wish I had like some kind of like subliminal power. Like I put my headphones on and I'm asleep and I still catch everything. Like that'd be fantastic, but that does not exist. And you know, so I appreciate you guys sending me the things that you guys send me, and you know, keeping me aware of things, because yeah. And I mean, there's even times where I'll go over to a channel that I don't agree with, and I'll listen in the bushes for a minute and see what the heck's going on. I mean, you know, it's just because, again, we have to remember that Chris and Katie are talking to some of these other creators that I would never listen to. I never knew who they were before. And so, you know, you kind of do pop over and say, you know, too, what's going on? What are they saying? What do they think? You know, I don't even know what half of them have said really about what they think of SF's new footage. I just know when I was in a chat that, you know, I probably don't belong in, doing some research of my own, I realized that, you know, there was this other video, and this person who was actually, again, someone who I consider to be one that really does care and maybe just disagrees with what I'm saying, told me, hey, Lady Freedom, check out the video from SF. And I, you know, I was like, okay, thank you, you know. I appreciate somebody that does that so much more than just, you know, well, Lady Freedom, you didn't really come up with that photo, and Lady Freedom, Nancy Race thinks you're this, and it's like, okay, weird, you know. I would much rather somebody give me a reason or say, hey, go check this out. And like, to me, I'll talk to that person all day long, and we'll discuss things like adults, you know, but not when, you know, it's an attack. So I think that's really important, because again, I think people, especially in this case, I've seen a lot of people demanding respect instead of earning it from others. And instead of demanding that we listen to your point of view, why don't you give us a reason to listen to it instead of demanding it, right? You're earning my ear by giving me a good reason. I shut down if you have not a good reason to give. Then I'm not, you know, that's a good way that I'm just going to say this person is a troll. I don't have time. I'm not wasting energy, you know, things like that. So that's just the way I operate, or the way I think. Again, I know not everybody's going to do that. Oh, Dawn. Okay, so SF put out this 10:15 video. I'm going to have to, you know what? I wonder if I could pull it in really quick. Hold on 1 second, Miss Dawn. Let me see what I can do for you, hon. Let's see. Where did I put that bugger? Okay, let me see if I could pull this in. Okay, it's saying it's letting me do it. I just had to go onto the other app and fix that. Okay, so SF put a video out of 10:15. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was 10:17 p.m. on Sunday, February 25th, 2024. And he's alleging that this child in the neighborhood is one of Bobby's sons. Bobby, the neighbor, is one of her sons who is lying in wait for Sebastian to come out of the house. And then allegedly something transpired, and Sebastian ended up in the construction zone where he's never going to be found again. It's really odd. It's not a great explanation. Here it is. Here we go. So, you know, this is 225 timestamp is located at the lower right-hand side of your screen. So 2217 is 1017. And that would be Sunday night. And what you're going to want to look for is a light. And that's not a little bat signal you see. That is actually a flashlight. And the subject will be coming into view. We will see the subject who has the flashlight come into view shortly. And you can kind of see it's scanning the yard for something, in my opinion. Scanning the yard, in my opinion. This is from Ring camera footage. And again, now you can see there's like a green box that kind of showed where the subject is, and you can see the light source in the subject's hands. And you can see they're kind of dusting the ground, right, with the light, looking under the cars because they're looking for a cat, in my opinion. And they kind of sit on the ground and point the light against the ground to illuminate underneath the vehicles. Because little Fluffy got out, or Fuzzy, or whatever his name is, or her name. It could be a female cat for all I know. I really don't care, because to me it's not relevant. It's just kind of frustrating. But this is it, and you'll see that this person is wearing shorts and a short sleeve shirt. And as a matter of fact, sorry guys, I'm just trying to save this cropped in version really quick. And this is a quick crop job on here. A quick job. It's not, I just did it basically just now while we're talking. I'm just saving it, so bear with me. Alrighty, there we go. Let me load it in here. Okay, so I grabbed this other video and I just cropped it in. So this is the exact same video. I just cropped it into the corner of the screen so we can see the subject better. And again, I would pull this in, guys, for a deep analysis. But I don't want to waste my time on things that I find to be a crock of crap, for a better way to, lack of a better way to say it. It's just, it's a whole entire crock of crap. And that's just my opinion. If there's a little boy in the neighborhood looking for a cat, he's not looking for Sebastian, right? He's not looking to hurt Sebastian. He's looking to bring his cat home, and his mother's probably expecting him home shortly with the cat. I mean, it just takes a little bit of common sense. But here it is. Here's a crop version. And you can see the up close kiddo. And like I said, I think this kid's a high schooler. And I apologize that SF is putting your information out there as if you did something and all you're doing is looking for your cat in the neighborhood. But don't worry, we got a lot of kitty mamas out here that are, willing to fight for what's right. because this is just ridiculous. I mean, you could totally tell this kid's looking on the ground for something. If he was looking for another person, he'd have the flashlight up more, I would think. But you also kind of see the cat come into frame as well. So, I mean, that's been also debunked. See, and he's just looking around. I mean, he's looking for his cat. I wish there was some audio on here so we could hear whether he's calling for his cat, because, you know, he might be going Fluffy, Fluffy, and you might be able to hear him faintly or something. That would be great if we had some audio. But of course, you know, SF is not going to go the extra mile, because this is just a hoax. He's just trying to get us to believe this crap again. It's kind of ridiculous. And then again, he sits on the curb. Sitting on the curb, just trying to find the cat. Bat signal? Oh, Miss Sharon. I swear it's not a bat signal. Yeah, Vic, how about that? If you don't like someone, just don't watch them. How about that? I'm glutton for punishment if I do ever go watch someone that I don't particularly like. But, you know, it's not always a horrible experience, I'll say that. But, you know, or somebody that's new that I've never heard before, I don't mind that either, you know, because I like to give people a chance and see what they have to say. You know, it's only fair. Right, I know, little Miss Sharon. It does. Same here. And sometimes I just get put in a, you know, a foul mood myself, because a lot of the stuff that's said is just very foul, you know. Yeah, and if I don't agree, don't bash and blame me. That's not necessary. I know, by all means, exactly, hindsight. And, you know, and there's no reason that you're so right. It's not necessary. It doesn't help, right? It's not like helping the situation. But what would help the situation is maybe a pleasant adult conversation where both people give each other a chance to, you know, speak their mind and what they think, and then, you know, saying, you know, and this is why I believe this, and then the next person say, well, I understand where you're coming from, but I believe this because of this. That's way more productive, in my opinion, you know. Because, you know, if you don't do that, it's just shutting the conversation down. You know, if I come over and insult someone, I don't expect them to respond. And if they do, I don't expect a nice response back. You know, I mean, I just don't. I try to manage expectations like that. And I don't expect respect when it's not given. Robini says, I've tried, but I can only take so much before I have to leave. Sometimes I'll fast forward and try to find what I'm looking for. Yeah, that's true. Transcripts are great for that. Transcripts are great. Like if I'm looking for something in particular. Also, if somebody sends me something, I do try to at least like figure out the context too, so I know kind of what's going on, you know, because sometimes people will send me like a short screen clip or something, and I'll be like, wait, what? What's going on? And then I'll just go back and look. And hindsight says, accept different views as adults and continue on respectfully. This is not personal. It's a child. Yeah, and it isn't personal, but it's become so personal. And I don't understand that, right? Like, it's like, oh, you know, go over there and try to infiltrate people's, you know, lives, and I just don't get that. I don't have the time to do it. Oh, maybe I have. Is it on is it on X? Maybe I don't have the newest video. Did they put another one out? Oh, good Lord. All right, Rob Beanie says, Lady Freedom, did you see the second video in the neighborhood behind the Proud Bud says also has a cat? I think I just saw this, like, I think I saw the still shot, because I know Mom showed the cat, and I was like, oh, there's another cat in the neighborhood. Oh boy, you know. That's funny. Vic says I grew out of adulthood. Now I'm just old person and I have little patience left. Vic, I've always struggled with patience. Like I always have. I've been like, I'm not patient enough. When's this gonna happen? You know, and I have to remind myself, patience is a virtue. I can't even say it. Yeah, it's just a work in progress. So I don't know. Hopefully I'll get there. You know. Rob Beanie says, and thus us in his own yard on Kellen, which he never left. You see him go back inside alone. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna go look. Okay, I have to go look at that and see. It's got to be on X, I bet. He didn't skip in over to Sebastian, then to the construction site. You see him go inside holding a white cat. Oh my gosh. So my oh my gosh. Okay, so my title is appropriate. Oh boy, I didn't even see that. I didn't even see that one. Oh, help us all, please. I'm just praying right now out loud for us all. Cats come home when they're hungry, Vic. That's so funny. My gosh. Robot duck. Little Miss Sharon. Oh my goodness, you guys. It's BS, Dawn. At least that part is like really, really bad, right? Because you could see the kids wearing like some, you know, not what Sebastian was wearing. At first I was like, oh, he's not saying that's Sebastian, is he? But he wasn't. He was just implicating some innocent child in the neighborhood, like they need that in their life whatsoever. You know, oh, sorry, Pam. Pamela Roberts. There's no sound on the video. I wish there was, because we could hear them saying like, "Come here, Snowball," or whatever. You know, little white cat. Come here, Snowball. You know, something. Robini says, and if KP heard a thud and spiked to Sebastian around 10 and midnight, then 10:17 Kitty is irrelevant. Well, yeah, it is. It's irrelevant. And, you know, I'm just wondering if she knew of this footage and that's why she kind of set the narrative like she did. And then, but it's just weird. It's, you know, I can't even think like that, honestly, because they couldn't have foreseen having some kind of, you know, picklehead like fish sticks over here to come in and push this crap for them, right? But it's odd that the 10 o'clock, you know, 9 o'clock bed, 10 o'clock thud, noise, whatever, and then, you know, 10:17 Kitty. It's like, what? So it's just weird. It's just weird. You know what, Vic, I've been drinking coffee and stuff. I think it's like the humidity here. It's something like at nighttime I usually will get that, or I'll like wake up with like a stuffy nose or something. But I shouldn't be getting a cold. Hopefully I'm not getting a cold. Robini said I'd sue him for slander for myself and on behalf of my son, in my opinion. Yeah, Robini, I agree. I agree with that. You know, sometimes it's so tough though getting into litigation with these people. It's a game of who has more money, you know, like we kind of saw that with Carol Baskin and the Tiger King, right? Speaking of Here Kitty Kitty, not that I think Joe Exotic is, you know, the best guy ever, but I mean, I do think that, you know, he and Carol had that going back and forth, and she probably won because she has more money, you know, to deal with that kind of stuff. So yeah, hindsight, I agree. In my opinion, there's nothing relevant in those hours of footage that pertains to this child. I don't think so either. I don't. And, you know, the fact that they're trying to push it on us is very disturbing, because these are the parents, you know, doing this. Not Seth, but Chris and Katie, and it was their household where Sebastian was spending the majority of his time, and they're trying to hide details, in my opinion. Don't look over here, look over here, you know. I agree. Tina says, Lady Freedom, I think you're having a sound problems. Oh, okay. Was it after the video? I might be behind in chat, you guys. I'm sorry. Okay, okay, okay. Sorry, guys. That's so funny. Well, when I left the screen to save that video, I was thinking, uh-oh. You know. Hey, SI officer, welcome back. Chopoodle says, I used to think old people were nosy, but no one. Now that I'm retired, now we just have a lot of time on our hands. We see everything. That's so funny, Chopoodles. Yeah, and I mean, you know, I think it also comes from like the see something, say something, right? Because like it used to be where people were like, mind your own business. You know, if you hear somebody yelling and screaming, you know, that leave them alone. They're just arguing, you know, there's something, you know, that's between them. But nowadays it's like we realize that, you know, sometimes when we have that mindset, people end up hurt, and then you don't want to live with having that on your shoulders, you know, that because that would be terrible, you know, if you heard a loud commotion, say at your neighbor's house, and then the next day you realize that one of them is unalived. It's like, damn, I should have called the police when I heard that loud noise, you know. And it's now they don't want to take that chance. They don't want that on them, you know. They want to help. And I think it's a good thing. I do think it's a good thing, but I know it can be tough, you know. Google it, Vic. We also have more life experience and we recognize shady stuff. Amen, Robini. And you know, we as I've gotten older, I've given less of the benefit of the doubt to people, and I've become more skeptical and a little bit more cynical. But it's not because, you know, I want to be like bitter and hateful, but like you said, it's more like you live and learn, right? And you're wiser, and you know what to look out for, because you understand that, hey, like there's certain behaviors that if you see them again, then, you know, you have to put the boundary up. And it's life lessons for sure. You guys are so awesome. I've been up here way too long, but I just enjoyed talking with you guys. Tomorrow we'll be up again because we're going to be, you know, kind of working these theories out through the week. And I'm definitely going to look at some other factors, you know, that's involved in the case, and reasons why I've come to some of the conclusions I have. But again, I always want it to be, you know, like an open mind, open forum, because it's important, you know. We learn to protect our peace too. Amen, Robini. Yeah, and ourselves, because, you know, life is just about surviving to the next day. And, you know, a lot of us, I think everybody, if you live long enough, you'll realize that, you know, your peace is sacred, and nobody is entitled to that but you know. All right, guys. Thank you, Brenda Brown. Thank you all. Thank you so much for being here. Hindsight, thank you so much for all your love and support. You're awesome, girl. Vic, thank you so much. I also, SI Officer Robini, Little Miss Sharon, you guys are amazing. I really appreciate you guys. Show Poodles, and everyone that's been in here tonight. Thank you all for being kind and respectful. Tina Girl, you know, Pamela Roberts, we had Dawn tonight. Thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. And I appreciate your smart comments, you being so respectful and caring of each other. I see that in the chat. I see, because I don't get to catch everything. But I do see people saying, you know, kind words to each other. And that's the community I want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of a community where we bash the crap out of anybody. That's even Chris and Katie. I mean, you know, we just want to find the truth. So, all right, guys, thank you all. I love you all so much. You have a wonderful rest of your evening or morning or night, and I will see you all tomorrow.